Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Ah, you old man Xian Yuan, prepare to die. A sharp shout rang out in the room, and Xiao Lingyun was jolted awake from a nightmare, abruptly sitting up in bed. This body. At the same time, memories buried deep within the soul surge forth like a tidal wave. After a long silence, a deep voice echoed in the room. Old man Xian Yuan, old monster Qin, you probably never dreamed that with such meticulous planning, I would still be able to escape with a wisp of my remaining will. Even though you beat me so badly that I couldn't even use spiritual incarnation, I still have a new body now, ha ha ha. Heaven has given me a chance to retrace my steps on the path of spiritual cultivation. I will seize this opportunity. It took me 60,000 years to ascend the throne back then, but now, I can do it again in 20,000 years. You old man Xian Yuan, you old monster Qin, you just wait for me. Having calmed down, Xiao Lingyun began to digest and integrate the memories of this body. After a stick of incense had burned, Xiao Lingyun had gained a basic understanding of the previous owner of his body and this small world. Xin Yuyu, Lingyun sword sacked. Lingyun courtyard, courtesy student? The door creaked open, and a chubby boy walked in. Brother Yun, you're awake. The chubby boy's eyes suddenly lit up with stars. Little soldier, you're getting bigger and bigger horizontally. Having inherited most of the memories of this body, Xiao Lingyun immediately recognized the chubby boy in front of him. He grinned slightly. If Xiao Lingyun had any brother in this Lingyun villa, it would be this chubby little boy in front of him, Pan Xiaobing. Thank God, Brother Yun, you're finally awake. You have no idea. 3 days ago, Zhao Changgong and I found you lying covered in blood next to the carcass of a giant earth bear. It nearly scared me to death. By the way, Brother Yun, how did you end up hunting a giant earth bear in the back mountains? That beast was so big, even 2 of me couldn't handle it. I don't remember what happened either. Xiao Lingyun didn't tell the fat man the truth. Oh, right, Brother Yun, Instructor Zhao reported that you killed a giant earth bear. Besides these healing elixirs, you also received 3 contribution points from the villa. Pan Xiaobing excitedly handed a chip to Xiao Lingyun. At Lingyun Villa, Zhao Mingjian, dressed in a silver-white robe, looked rather grim. In front of him, his 2 henchmen, Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming, hung their heads, not daring to breathe loudly. You 2 are complete trash. You're supposed to be level 4 martial artists, yet you couldn't even handle a level 3 martial artist, and you even lost a giant earth bear. Do you know how much effort our Zhao family put into taming that bear? That kid's really lucky. Not only did he escape death, but he also gained 3 academy points and caught Zhao Changgong's eye. It'll be much harder to deal with that Xiao trash now. You both better keep a low profile for a while. Next month is the Academy's annual Academy Disciple competition. You 2 better hurry up and train. Whether you find someone or do it yourselves, you must make that Xiao trash look bad in the competition. Yes, Brother Jian. The 2 men breathed a sigh of relief and replied in unison. This level of reprimand was much better than they had expected. If you 2 fail again in the competition, you can prepare to go to the back mountain to meet the bloodthirsty wolf pack. Zhao Mingjian said coldly, then turned and left. A pack of bloodthirsty wolves? Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming both shuddered. Almost simultaneously after seeing the chubby boy off, a chilling glint flashed in Xiao Lingyun's eyes. Wan, what a vicious little wench. Even if your arranged fiancé is just an ordinary guy with only 2 years of experience and doesn't deserve you, this darling of heaven, you don't have to be so cruel as to take someone's life. And Zhao Mingjian, Zhao Sandy, Cai Ming, I will make you pay for this blood debt. Having been given a second chance at life, Xiao Lingyun absolutely does not want to repeat the tragedy that befell him or the original owner of this body. Calm and collected, Xiao Lingyun began to carefully examine his new body, a second or third-rate waste. Even the most useless body, the most useless talent, are no problem with me here. No spiritual energy vortex to open, a blank slate in cultivation, haha, just right. With a thought, an extremely profound cultivation technique appeared in his mind. Chaos Supreme God Technique, a Supreme God level cultivation technique. It was precisely this technique that led to his demise. This cultivation technique has only 45 levels. The first 27 levels correspond to spiritual cultivation, while the last 18 levels correspond to the gods of the upper realm. First stage, 100 days of foundation building. This requires absorbing the yin and cold power of the stars at midnight and the blazing power of the rising sun at dawn, alternating between yin and yang, ice and fire, to temper the body. This process takes 100 days to forge an unparalleled foundation. Once the foundation is successfully built, the spiritual veins will open, and spiritual energy will vortex. One will then directly step into the realm of a true spiritual cultivator, a spiritual master. From now on, for each level of the Supreme God level cultivation technique, the spiritual cultivation realm will correspondingly increase by 1 rank. Midnight, Xiao Lingyun, shirtless, sat cross-legged by the window. After several dozen breaths, the instant a wisp of icy starlight power entered his body, Xiao Lingyun felt himself instantly turn into an ice sculpture. Even his thoughts and consciousness seemed to be completely frozen by the extreme cold in an instant. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Lingyun regained consciousness and immediately activated the first level of the Chaos Supreme God technique. Gradually, the tens of thousands of ice needles that were originally chaotic and disordered began to flow in a regular pattern. At dawn, behind the villa, the blazing sun's power entered his body, and his skin, flesh, and bones seemed to melt little by little under the extreme heat, and then reconstruct little by little. This allowed Xiao Lingyun to truly experience the feeling of the flames melting his skin and forging his bones. As the sun rose, Xiao Lingyun's abdomen made a soft popping sound, as if some barrier had been broken through. Level 4 Martial Artist? The body's former owner, a 4th-level martial artist who had struggled to break through for months, achieved a breakthrough in just half a day under the first level of the Chaos Supreme Divine Spirit Technique, a Supreme Divine Level Cultivation Method, the 100-Day Foundation Building Technique. Whoosh! The wind howled as the fist struck, a clean and powerful Cloud Tiger fist routine, subtly imbued with the essence of a turbulent and powerful fist technique. In terms of technique alone, it was far superior to the body's former owner. Even just those hints of turbulent and powerful fist technique alone surpassed the skill of many instructors who taught this style of fist. A moment later, Xiao Lingyun moved, and the withered branch he picked up at random was wielded like a real longsword. Pointing, stabbing, parrying, pressing, breaking, throwing, swinging, and slashing, the basic movements of the sword technique were not only precise but also gave people the illusion of being so smooth and natural as flowing clouds and water, as if it was always meant to be this way. The withered branches, like nimble swallows, hissed and flickered with light and shadow, as 2 fallen leaves transformed into 4 petals and drifted down. The first move of the 4 basic sword techniques, double flying swallows, was perfectly executed. Xiao Lingyun stopped abruptly, his brows furrowing slightly. This body was too weak. After only 100-day foundation establishment training session involving yin-yang ice and fire tempering, it already had a hidden injury. The later stages of the 100-day foundation establishment required an increasingly higher level of physical strength, and with this physique, it definitely wouldn't be enough. He needed to temper his body to improve it. With this physique, besides short-term body tempering, a good health-preserving exercise is needed for the long-term. Health-preserving exercise. Soon, an exercise appeared in my mind. Turtle and Crane Immortal Spirit Health Preservation Exercise not only has the effect of nourishing life and prolonging life, but also has the miraculous effects of strengthening the body, eliminating hidden ailments, and greatly accelerating wound healing. Half an hour later, after putting the body-tempering liquid prescription he had just written into his pocket, Xiao Lingyun headed towards the town outside the villa. Outside Lingyun Villa lies a bustling town where trade is extremely vibrant, especially with a dazzling array of goods available for martial arts students, everything imaginable. Qian Danfang, Xiao Lingyun glanced at the 3 large gilded characters hanging above the tall shop's entrance. That's it. He stepped inside. Hey, third brother, look, that's Xiao. A young man pointed at Xiao Lingyun, who was walking towards the gate of Qian Danfang, from a distance. Hey, it really is that good for nothing, right? He must have gone out of the villa to buy healing medicine. Haha, Cai Ming, let's keep watch. When this good for nothing comes out, we'll give him a good humiliation. If he resists, then, hee. Another boy clenched his fist and let out a sinister laugh. Qian Danfang's business extends to every corner of Xinu domain, making it one of the top 4 super pharmacies in the elixir industry. Second manager Sun Yunshinj walked briskly with a beaming smile. Big business? He loved big business. The bigger the business, the bigger his commission. Sun Yunshinj liked silver notes, gold coins, and even more so, spirit stones. He loved anything related to money. Upon entering the elegant guest room, a tall boy of about 14 or 15 years old stood there. Where's the big customer? Could it be this little brat? I am Sun Yunshinj, the manager of Qian Danfang. Where is your master? Sun Yunshinj asked, frowning slightly. Xiao Lingyun smiled calmly and got straight to the point. I have a prescription here, an ancient, lost prescription. I'd like to cooperate with your Qian Danfang. I'll provide the prescription, and you'll be responsible for all the raw materials and preparation. We'll split the profits 50-50. A prescription alone demands half the shares. That's blatant exorbitant demand. Sun Yunshinj's face immediately darkened. Qian Danfang had been in business for over 1,000 years, and had acquired at least several hundred, if not 1,000, exclusive medicinal formulas. Yet, few formulas were worth half a share. Was this kid just here to toy with me? If it weren't for the fact that Xiao Lingyun was wearing the uniform of a Lingyun Academy student, Sun Yunshinj would have had the urge to slap him. Hehe, young brother, in the realm of medicine prescription transactions, not to mention the entire Qian Danfang, I alone have handled over 10 such deals. They were all one-time buyouts, with a 50-50th split, and all costs covered by us. This is unprecedented. It seems Manager Sun doesn't want to do this business. Fine, I'll go find Sahai Pharmacy, Xiao Lingyun said, and turned to leave. Young man, wait a moment, may I take a look at your prescription? With a sudden thought, Sun Yunshinj quickly asked to stop him. What if the prescription was genuine? Wouldn't that benefit his old rival, Sahai Pharmacy? He should at least have a better understanding of the situation before he took a look. Prescription? Sure, but I'm afraid steward's son won't understand it. Xiao Lingyun generously took out the prescription from his pocket and handed it over. The prescription only contains a few ingredients, the quantities and preparation methods are not specified, so there's no fear of them stealing it. Taking the prescription, Sun Yunshin frowned even more after just one glance. An ancient prescription? Judging by the paper and the handwriting, this looks like they just grabbed a random piece of paper and scribbled down a few ingredients. Is this supposed to be an ancient prescription? You little rascal, if you're going to lie, at least find an old-fashioned sheepskin scroll. If you don't have an old-fashioned sheepskin scroll, at least find some old-fashioned paper. And the handwriting has to be strong and vigorous, like dragons and phoenixes dancing in the wind, and it has to be in ancient seal script. Your forgery is so poorly done. Anger surged within him, and he looked up at Xiao Lingyun, ready to rebuke him. But the moment his gaze met Xiao Lingyun's calm and composed eyes, strangely enough, his anger subsided considerably. A thought struck him, and he called out, "Please summon Pharmacist Wang." Soon, an old man hurried in, glanced at the ancient prescription, and then, in an expert's tone, said with absolute certainty, "Second steward, I've never heard of this prescription before. As for whether it truly has body-tempering effects, only the owner of this prescription knows. The only thing I can be certain of is that this is definitely not an ancient prescription. Liar." The old man's disdainful gaze towards Xiao Lingyun made no attempt to hide the word liar. Fake? Huh? A third-rate, incompetent pharmacist, judging this prescription as fake based solely on the handwriting on the paper. I can only say, a frog in a well knows nothing of the vastness of the world. You frog in a well. The pharmacist surnamed Wang was so angry his goatee stood on end. He shrieked, "Boy, you've got some nerve. You dare try to scam us at Qian Fang with a fake prescription. Don't think your status as a student of Lingyun Academy will protect you. Let me tell you, today, even if you're just a student, or even if you're an instructor from the academy, we'll still pursue you. Guards, seize this little swindler." The pharmacist surnamed Wang clearly wielded considerable power at Qian Fang. At his command, 2 tall and burly guards immediately rushed in. "Hey, you've got some nerve arresting our student instructors," a voice drifted over. "Stop." Almost simultaneously, a sharp shout rang out. The 2 guards who had just rushed to Xiao Lingyun's side trembled upon hearing this stern shout and hurriedly withdrew their outstretched hands. He retreated dejectedly. Immediately afterwards, 2 people walked in, Master, Steward. Sun Yunshin and Pharmacist Wang bowed in unison. "Hey, isn't that fat guy on the left Elder Zhao Wenzhuo from the Pill Pavilion of the Secluded Courtyard? This fat Zhao is a big shot who even the Dean of Lingyun Secluded Courtyard, Qi Tingtian, respectfully calls him Senior Brother Zhao." Without hesitation, Xiao Lingyun stepped forward and bowed. "Greetings, Elder." Zhao Wenzhuo nodded in return, his small eyes fixed on Pharmacist Wang, and said coldly, "Who was it that just said they wanted to arrest my students and interrogate them?" Facing Zhao Wenzhuo, a cultivator with the power of a spirit master, Wang Yaoshi, who had yet to open his spiritual meridians, immediately broke out in a cold sweat, bowing deeply, reporting to Master, your esteemed academies, this young brother has obtained a fake prescription." "A fake prescription? You identified it." The pharmacist's back hunched over even more. He said it's an ancient prescription. "Hey student, let me see the prescription." Zhao Wenzhuo glanced at the pill formula Xiao Lingyun handed him, his brows furrowing slightly. "Blood Silk Spirit Jade Body Tempering Liquid. I've never heard of this name before. An ancient pill formula. This kid, could it be? No, if it were fake, he would definitely not come to a place like Qian Fang. Can you make this Blood Silk Spirit Jade Body Tempering Liquid?" As soon as the words left his mouth, Zhao Wenzhuo regretted it. He could tell at a glance that Xiao Lingyun was only a 4th-level martial artist. How could a martial artist of this level refine a body tempering liquid of this quality? He should have asked him if he had the recipe for this medicine. "It can be made." Xiao Lingyun nodded. "It can be made." Zhao Wenzhuo's small eyes widened. "Go, have someone bring 5 portions of each medicinal ingredient according to this prescription. No, 10 portions of each." Zhao Wenzhuo, as a guest, gave the order without any politeness. 10 portions of each item? Xiao Lingyun was overjoyed. The more she looked at Zhao Wenzhuo's chubby face, the cuter it seemed. An hour later, Xiao Lingyun came out carrying 3 small pill bottles. He handed 1 elixir bottle to the head steward, 1 to Zhao Wenzhuo, and unceremoniously pocketed the remaining 1. What a wonderful blood silk spirit jade! As expected of an ancient elixir formula, this material is not only cheaper than several commonly available body tempering liquids, but its effects are also increased by 30%. This 30% increase alone will make a martial artist's physique even stronger, able to withstand greater pain, and significantly increase the chances of successfully opening their meridians. It's foreseeable that once this Blood Silk Spirit Jade is released, it will cause a huge stir among martial artists. In just a few years, this Blood Silk Spirit Jade will dominate the entire body tempering liquid market. This is no longer just a prescription for martial artists. In the future, all spiritual cultivators in our entire XINU domain will enter a glorious era because of this Blood Silk Spirit Jade. The head steward, the second steward, and pharmacist Wang were all dumbfounded. If Xiao Lingyun's ability to create this body-tempering liquid had already astonished them, then Zhao Wenzhuo's words had completely shocked them so much that their souls almost left their bodies. The three of them, regaining their senses, looked at the blood silk spirit jade pill bottle with eyes practically glowing green. It's a miracle drug. The most crucial aspect of unifying the body tempering liquid market is that this blood silk spirit jade can increase a martial artist's chances of opening their spiritual meridians and becoming the true master of spiritual cultivation in this world. What is this? This is a miracle drug, a true miracle drug. The XINU domain is rich in spiritual energy, and almost everyone can reach the level of a 9th level martial artist. However, those who can open their spiritual meridians, create a spiritual energy vortex, and become spiritual cultivators are less than 1 in 1,000. Taking Lingyun Academy as an example, the students it recruits are all the best of the best. Even so, out of the total of 60,000 to 70,000 students, no more than 500 will ultimately become spiritual cultivators. How many people are willing to spend their entire fortune just to open their spiritual channels and become spiritual practitioners? The XINU domain contains dozens of mortal kingdoms of varying sizes. Many of these smaller kingdoms have national advisors who are merely high-level spiritualists. If a spiritualist like Zhao Wenzuo were to wish to enter the mortal world, even the rulers of powerful empires like the Muyun Empire and the Great Xia Empire would eagerly welcome him. Young man, we agree to your request. All costs will be covered by Qian Danfang, and we'll split the profits 50-50ths. We can sign the contract right away. Sun Yunshinj looked at Xiao Lingyun with excitement. A 50-50th split? You have no shame. This miraculous medicine formula is priceless. 70-30ths, or even 80-20ths, wouldn't be unreasonable. Before Xiao Lingyun could speak, Zhao Wenzuo, like a mother hen protecting her chicks, spoke first. Sign a contract? A fake prescription, and you still sign it. Xiao Lingyun hadn't forgotten what had happened before. He smiled faintly and began to deliver a scathing rebuke. Ahem, young brother, I was blind and ignorant, unaware of this miraculous remedy. I apologize to you for my ignorance, said pharmacist Wang, looking ashamed. You think a few words are enough to apologize? Old man, you're too arrogant? If Elder Zhao hadn't arrived, I'd probably be out of Qian Danfang by now, with my arms and legs broken. If you want to apologize, be sincere. Slap yourself 3 times and honestly admit your mistake. Slap him, or slap himself? Pharmacist Wang felt a buzzing in his head, a surge of shame and anger welling up inside him. But with Zhao Wenzuo here, he dared not act rashly again, and could only look to the head steward for help. What chilled Wang the pharmacist to the bone was that the head steward didn't even look at him, instead speaking coldly. Wang Li, if you're going to admit your mistake, do it sincerely, don't just talk the talk. The head steward was a man of his word, and there was no escaping this slap. With a hardened heart, pharmacist Wang slapped himself 6 or 7 times across the face. Every slap was real, without mercy. After a round of slaps, his thin, old face instantly turned red and swollen. However, Xiao Lingyun's next words nearly made pharmacist Wang bang his head against the ground. You promised 3 slaps. What do you mean by 7 in a row? Are you holding a grudge and unwilling to admit your mistake? Since you're not sincere, there's no point in continuing this business. How many slaps am I not sincere? Old Wang, what do you mean? Can't you even understand what I'm saying? For this miraculous medicine formula, Sun Yunshinj doesn't mind taking down a third-rate pharmacist. Slap, slap, slap. Overwhelmed with grief and indignation, pharmacist Wang swung his arm again and slapped his swollen old face 3 times. The deal was split 70-30ths, and the extra 20% negotiated down was directly allocated by Xiao Lingyun to Zhao Wenzuo. To put it bluntly, this was what old Zhao deserved. Xiao Lingyun also greatly admired Zhao Wenzuo. He had excellent insight and a broad perspective. He had actually seen the future of the entire XINU domain from a small bottle of blood silk spirit jade. This was something that not just anyone could do. Zhao Wenzuo didn't mince words. He accepted 20% of the shares of Blood Silk Spirit Jade, not only helping Xiao Lingyun obtain a purple gold card for a high-level VIP at Qian Danfang, but also promising to give Xiao Lingyun a real spirit vein pill as long as Xiao Lingyun reached the 9th level of martial artist. The spirit vein pill can greatly enhance a martial artist's ability to open their spirit veins and create a vortex of spiritual energy. This is a true spiritual pill that money can hardly buy. Although Xiao Lingyun didn't need it, Zhao Wenzuo's thoughtfulness still made Xiao Lingyun feel a bit of goodwill towards him. Zhao Wenzuo went first, and Xiao Lingyun, who had already signed the agreement, retrieved 5 more sets of blood silk spirit jade materials from the counter. He then walked out with light steps. We hadn't gone far from the gates of Qian Danfang. 2 teenagers blocked his way. Yo, isn't this our infamous young master Xiao of Lingyun Courtyard, the good-for-nothing who only advanced 3 levels in 2 years? He's here to buy medicinal herbs from Qian Danfang. Tisk tisk, even a good-for-nothing like him has finally figured things out. His talent is trash, but he knows to use spiritual herbs to make up for it. The boy on the left spoke in a sharp and sarcastic voice. Haha, third brother, young Master Xiao is quite something now. A student who can take down a giant earth bear 3 levels stronger than himself, can he be called trash? Even if he is trash, he's not just any trash, he's elite trash. The boy on the right said with a mocking expression. Ha ha ha, yes, he's definitely not your average piece of trash, but Cai Ming, even an elite piece of trash is still trash. Xiao Lingyun looked at the two teenagers standing side by side, laughing heartily, about 8 meters away with a wicked smile on his lips. Zhao Sandy, Cai Ming? These two people were the murderers who lured and caused the death of the previous owner of this body? You two idiots? I was planning to deal with you two a couple of days later, but you actually delivered yourselves right to my doorstep today. Xiao Lingyun sneered inwardly, but said calmly, oh, the weather's so strange these days, even cats and dogs are barking everywhere. Whose owner is this, letting these animals run wild like that? Aren't they going to hurt passersby? Who are you calling a Tom, DK, or Harry? Who are you insulting? Cai Ming was furious upon hearing this. He glared at Xiao Lingyun, pointed at him, and started yelling, it's all bristling? I'm so scared. Everyone come quick, there's a livestock bristling. Xiao Lingyun shouted. Xiao Lingyun's shout immediately attracted a lot of attention. Zhao Sandy, Xiao Lingyun, hee, this is going to be good. In the distance, a young man dressed in the uniform of Lingyun Academy laughed out loud. Beside him were 4 other young men also dressed in academy uniforms. Isn't this Xiao Lingyun the guy from the 2nd grade who got engaged to Wan as a child? A tall boy in the middle asked, frowning slightly. Yes, that kid surnamed Xiao is the infamous good-for-nothing of our southern school district. He's only achieved 3 grades in 2 years, making him the worst student in the entire second-year program. For Miss Wan to have such a good-for-nothing fiancé is truly a case of a beautiful lotus flower stuck in cow dung. Xiao Lingyun has suffered a lot of humiliation from Zhao Mingjian and his men these past few months, and today, for some reason, he actually had the courage to challenge Zhao Sandy. Zhao Sandy, Zhao Mingjian's good-for-nothing cousin. The tall young man in the middle became interested. Let's go take a look. You piece of trash, how dare you insult us too? Cai Ming, beat him up, knock out all his teeth, and let this trash know the consequences of talking big. Zhao Sandy roared. Upon hearing Zhao Sandy's words, Cai Ming exerted his strength and leaped forward with a whoosh. In the next instant, with a whoosh, the boy's fist really went straight for Xiao Lingyun's face. If that punch landed, not only would I lose my front teeth, I might even lose half my life. The cold light in Xiao Lingyun's eyes intensified. Several people in the surrounding crowd couldn't help but gasp in surprise. The punch was about to land. Xiao Lingyun suddenly shifted his body to the side, narrowly dodging the punch at the last second. One punch, and you miss. Unable to stop his momentum, Cai Ming charged forward. Immediately afterwards, Cai Ming felt as if his foot had tripped over something. My body has completely lost its balance. Suddenly, with a loud thud, he crashed heavily to the ground. Fortunately, he reacted quickly, extending his hands as he fell, thus avoiding a face-first landing. What a clever trick, like a hungry dog snatching food. Xiao Lingyun's voice rang out. Just tell me what you want. I'm not an unreasonable, heartless person. You have to speak up. Oh, right, I forgot, we humans can't understand what dogs say. Cai Ming's thin, monkey-like face instantly turned a deep liver color with anger. You surnamed Xiao, I'm going to kill you. With his left hand bracing against the ground, Cai Ming flipped into the air, cursing fiercely. He had barely stood up when he suddenly drew the fine steel longsword from his waist. Seeing that Cai Ming had actually drawn the longsword issued to him by the villa, Xiao Lingyun's face darkened. If it weren't for the bustling town and the public eye, Xiao Lingyun would have had the urge to kill those two scumbags in a secluded corner. We can't kill them. Let's toy with these two first and collect some interest. Hey, it's senior brother Cai Ming. Xiao Lingyun exclaimed in surprise as he looked at Cai Ming, who was drawing his sword and about to attack, as if he only just recognized the person in front of him. Damn it! Xiao Lingyun, what the hell are you pretending to be stupid for? Now, calling me senior brother or even ancestor won't work. If I don't cut a few gashes on you today and knock all your dog teeth out, I'm not Cai Ming. Cai Ming's face was contorted with rage. Seriously? Senior, what's wrong with you today? Why are you so hot-tempered? Have you forgotten our academy's rules? Fighting among students is strictly prohibited. Cai Ming was stunned. He actually forgot this rule? Just as Cai Ming was stunned, Xiao Lingyun's voice rang out again, unless the other party is willing to accept a martial arts duel. Xiao Lingyun, I challenge you to a martial arts duel. Cai Ming's bewildered eyes immediately turned fierce like a wolf's. Senior brother seems to have a really strong temper. If he doesn't vent it, he might suffer internal injuries. But martial arts duels are very dangerous, especially since senior brother has even drawn his sword. It could easily result in losing an arm or a leg. Such a dangerous thing. Are you ever going to stop? One word, a martial arts duel. Do you dare? Cai Ming interrupted impatiently. A martial arts duel? That's a great method. We can cripple this kid and not even have to take responsibility. Zhao Sandy's eyes lit up, and he went on to provoke him. Haha, Cai Ming, don't force a piece of trash like him. He doesn't have the guts. Hey, isn't this Zhao Mingjian's henchman, Xiao Sanzi? You two look like you're traveling in a sorry state. Cough cough, traveling together, traveling together. Xiao Lingyun turned his head and looked at Zhao Sandy with surprise. You're the one who's a wolf and a jackal? Calling you a wolf and a jackal is giving you too much credit. You're a complete waste. Zhao Sandy sneered. That's right, that's right. How could someone like me be called a wolf or a jackal? It has to be your two senior brothers who can be called a wolf and a jackal. Xiao Lingyun said with a look of agreement. Zhao Sandy was furious. He had originally wanted to provoke this kid into agreeing to a martial arts duel with Cai Ming, but who would have thought that this kid would ridicule him with words again. Approaching with a grim face, he lowered his voice and threatened, "You brat surnamed Xiao, you've got some nerve, daring to insult us. If you don't accept Cai Ming's martial arts duel today, you can forget about staying at Lingyun Courtyard from now on. You two are nothing." Xiao Lingyun scoffed inwardly. On the surface, however, he feigned some fear and worry, took 2 steps back, and looked at Cai Ming, saying, "It's not impossible for me to agree to a martial arts duel. Speak." Cai Ming shouted, getting excited. 10 gold coins? Give me 10 gold coins and I'll have a martial arts duel with you. 10 gold coins, right? Okay, I'll give them to you. Before Cai Ming could answer, Zhao Sandy had already spoken first, as if afraid that Xiao Lingyun would change his mind. This guy directly took out his money bag, poured out 10 gold coins, and handed them over. As expected of the Zhao family's son, Xiao Sanzi is incredibly wealthy. Look at that money bag, there are at least 30 or 40 gold coins inside. Xiao Lingyun unceremoniously grabbed the 10 gold coins Zhao Sandy offered, his eyes gleaming as he said, "Hey, gentlemen, how about we bet 50 gold coins? You wouldn't be saying the loser gets 50 gold coins, would you?" Zhao Sandy glanced at Xiao Lingyun disdainfully. "Of course, the winner takes all. If I win, you two will have to give me 50 gold coins. You? Ha ha ha, you surnamed Xiao, you must be crazy for gold coins? You win? You're dreaming? If you beat me, I'll give you not just 50 gold coins, I'll give you 100. Cai Ming sized up Xiao Lingyun and smiled sinisterly. "You said 100 gold coins? It's settled then." Xiao Lingyun's eyes lit up. "Haha, I didn't expect this guy to raise the price himself. Brother Yi, what's wrong with Xiao Lingyun?" One of the 5 students from the other courtyard stood outside the crowd and whispered. The tall young man's gaze swept over Xiao Lingyun, a smile playing on his lips. "Even trash can rise to power. Brother Yi, you think Xiao Lingyun has a good chance? Really? Xiao Lingyun has suffered a lot at the hands of Cai Ming and Zhao Sandy in the past. Quan, your eyesight still needs improvement," the tall young man said, glancing sideways at the boy who had spoken. "Brother Yi, I don't think Xiao Lingyun has a good chance either," someone nearby said. The tall young man looked around and asked, "You all think Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming are a good match?" Looking at the expressions of his 4 companions, he lightly tapped them with his finger, shook his head, and said nothing more. Hearing Xiao Lingyun accept the challenge, Cai Ming's heart leaped with joy. His gaze swept over Xiao Lingyun opposite him, his eyes darkening. "Xiao, you must have gotten incredibly lucky that day, killing a giant earth bear. You think you've finally shed the trash label and even dare to bet me 100 gold coins? Today, I'll not only chop off your hands and feet, but I'll also make you owe me a debt of 100 gold coins, turning you from a piece of trash into a complete cripple, a true piece of trash." He uttered a cold shout. "Xiao Lingyun, the duel begins? Take this." No sooner had he finished speaking than Cai Ming stomped his left foot, his entire body leaping into the air. In the next instant, the long sword in his hand drew 2 cold sword lights in midair, slashing down towards Xiao Lingyun. Cai Ming's move surprised many of the onlookers. Several martial artists, in particular, almost cried out, "A sneak attack? Shameless." Cai Ming's sword strike was precisely one of the most familiar basic sword techniques among the disciples of Lingyun Courtyard, double flying swallows. Cai Ming, a late-stage 4th-level martial artist, executed the double flying swallow move quite skillfully, capturing much of its essence. But the Xiao Lingyun of today is no longer the Xiao Lingyun of a few days ago. Although this body is weak, the eyesight and experience of the God King of the Upper Realm in his previous life are far beyond what a low-level martial artist in this world can compare to. What appeared to be a powerful sword move to others was, in Xiao Lingyun's eyes, merely the beginning. No, it wasn't even the beginning, because he immediately saw 3 flaws in it. So Xiao Lingyun moved, advancing instead of retreating. He took a step forward, raised his right hand, and without even drawing his longsword from its sheath, he pointed it at a flaw in the opponent's sword move. On one side was a sharp long sword, and on the other was a blunt scabbard. The result of the duel was astonishing to everyone around. As Xiao Lingyun thrust his sword out, he slightly shifted his body to dodge the opponent's sharp blade. Meanwhile, the scabbard he thrust out with his right hand struck Cai Ming's right armpit, where he was holding the sword, at an unbelievable angle. Cai Ming felt a pain, numbness, and swelling in his armpit, causing him to involuntarily cry out, "Ah!" The long sword he was holding fell to the ground with a clang. The next moment, smack! 2 sharp sounds rang out as sword sheaths struck flesh. Cai Ming fell to the ground, feeling as if his knees had been shattered by the opponent's sword sheath. He clutched his aching knees and howled in pain. "Ah!" A piercing scream of pain, like a duck being strangled, suddenly rang out. Cai Ming realized that a chilling sword tip was right in front of him, less than 2 inches from his forehead. The coldness emanating from the sword tip made goosebumps rise on the muscles of his face. Immediately afterward, he heard Xiao Lingyun's voice, "Cai Ming, you lost. You, what do you want to do?" Facing the sword tip that could fall at any moment, Cai Ming was so terrified he almost wet himself, his teeth chattering as he stammered, "Little Sanzi, you'd better stay where you are and not move, otherwise, if you scare me and my hand slips and I hurt Cai Ming, don't blame me." Xiao Lingyun ignored Cai Ming and instead glanced indifferently at Zhao Sandy, who was about to rush forward. Third brother, don't move. Cai Ming cried out hurriedly, then closed his eyes, not daring to look at the sword tip so close to his face. He gritted his teeth and admitted defeat. You, surnamed Xiao, you move the sword away a bit, you win. Hee, senior brother, you really admit defeat quickly. A bet's a bet, 100 gold coins. Xiao Lingyun chuckled, slightly moving the tip of his sword away from his opponent's forehead. I only have 50-odd gold coins. Here, it's all yours. Xiao Lingyun snatched the money pouch the other man had taken off and stuffed it into his pocket without any hesitation. He grinned wickedly. We agreed on 100, but you've suddenly reduced it by almost half. This won't do. By the way, aren't you and Xiao Sanzi sworn brothers? Perhaps you could lend me some to pay this off. Xiao Lingyun, you want my gold coins? Fine, let's have another match. If you win, you can have all the remaining gold coins. Zhao Sandi's shrill, sinister voice rang out. One more match, that makes 2 matches, and 2 matches naturally require a prize of 200 gold coins. Do you have that many gold coins? Xiao Lingyun turned his head and looked at Zhao Sandy with a faint smile. As long as you win, you won't be shortchanged by a single coin. Zhao Sandy said coldly. If you have gold coins, then there's no problem. Xiao Lingyun chuckled, and with a clang, the sword returned to its sheath. With his left thumb gripping the hilt and 4 fingers holding the scabbard, he executed a stylish sword flourish, his eyes gleaming as he looked at Zhao Sandy as if he were eyeing a mountain of gold. Let's do it. Seeing Xiao Lingyun's beautiful sword flourish, Zhao Sandy's eyes widened. Swords have no eyes. If I accidentally wound you, I'd have a hard time explaining it to the academy. How about this? Let's settle this with our fists. Let's settle this with fists and feet. Zhao Sandy stammered, chuckling coldly. No problem, he said, shoving his long sword into the scabbard on his back. Zhao Sandy was truly astonished by Xiao Lingyun's decisive victory over Cai Ming. If Xiao Lingyun had insisted on using his sword, Zhao Sandy would have been hesitant. But now, hearing Xiao Lingyun agree to his request, Zhao Sandy was overjoyed. Xiao Lingyun, I refuse to believe you can withstand the attack of my Zhao family's overlapping wave fist. Whoosh! He exhaled a long breath, his internal energy surged, and he spread his arms wide. The wind howled, and the shadows of his fists surged, like a huge wave rolling in. Upon hearing the overlapping wave fist, Zhao Sandy's joy grew even greater. Not to mention Xiao Lingyun, this second or third-rate good-for-nothing. Even the rather outstanding 4th-level martial arts students in the courtyard couldn't withstand the attack of the overlapping wave fist. He could almost see Xiao Lingyun coughing up blood and collapsing to the ground under the fierce impact of the overlapping wave fist. That Zhao Sandy guy, he used the overlapping wave fist right off the bat. It seems he really considers Xiao Lingyun a worthy opponent, said the boy named Quan. I wonder how this guy will handle it. The tall young man, Yi Ji, watched Xiao Lingyun, who seemed quite relaxed, with great interest. Xiao Lingyun's eyes narrowed slightly. Could this be the famous layered wave fist of the Zhao family? Besides major spiritual cultivation sects like the Lingyun sword sect, there are also many aristocratic families on the Lingyun continent that have preserved some remarkable martial arts techniques and skills. The Zhao family of De Mu is one of the most prominent families in the Mu Yun Empire. In the past 500 years, the family has produced many spiritual practitioners and even spiritual masters. After reaching the 4th level of martial arts, the Zhao family members will all practice a powerful martial art of the Zhao family, the overlapping wave fist. It can be said that among the martial artists of the Lingyun continent, few are unaware of the renowned Zhao family's overlapping wave fist. It is said that the most effective way to counter this style of boxing is to immediately launch an attack or employ a strong, hard-hitting defense. The goal is to stop the opponent's offensive as soon as possible. There's absolutely no time to waste. Otherwise, once the opponent unleashes their power, creating a rolling wave of punches with ever-increasing force, it will eventually become impossible to withstand. Xiao Lingyun naturally knew about the reputation of the overlapping wave fist from the memories of the previous owner of this body. After realizing that Zhao Sandy was likely using the famous layered wave fist of his Zhao family, Xiao Lingyun did not want to deal with him using the methods he had heard about. He wanted to see just how profound this renowned boxing style truly was. Therefore, Xiao Lingyun chose to retreat immediately. He didn't even try to block Zhao Sandy's punches. Seeing Xiao Lingyun retreat without immediately launching a full-scale attack to stop him, Zhao Sandy was overjoyed. You good-for-nothing surnamed Xiao, you have no idea how powerful my family's traditional boxing technique is. Our Zhao family's stacking wave fist is layered and progressive. Before the force of the first punch dissipates, the force of the next punch is already generated, like layers of ocean waves, or like rolling boulders from a high mountain. The further you go, the faster the speed and the greater the accumulated force. By the time you react and try to defend yourself, it will be too late. However, after several punches, Zhao Sandy realized that his fists couldn't even touch a corner of the opponent's clothes, let alone hit him. Holy crap! When did Xiao Lingyun, that good-for-nothing, become so agile? He's like a slippery eel. The power of this wave-stacking fist is indeed great. When cultivated to the highest level, it can form a wave-stacking fist force with as many as 36 waves. Its power is so great that even a first-grade or second-grade spiritual master who has opened their spiritual meridians would not dare to face it head-on, let alone a 9th-grade martial artist. However, Zhao Sandy is only at the peak of the 4th-level martial artist, still a step away from the 5th-level martial artist. This wave-stacking fist technique has only reached the 6th layer of wave stacking. In the blink of an eye, the 6-fold wave was completed, but the opponent did not respond. This meant that the combined force had all hit empty air. This was already Zhao Sandy's limit. He had no energy left to stop, and even with his current strength, he couldn't control it at will. This was equivalent to exerting all one's strength, only to miss completely. The suffocating and uncomfortable feeling almost made Zhao Sandy vomit blood. Meanwhile, Xiao Lingyun moved nimbly, dodging and observing his opponent's fist techniques. This fist style has some skill. Each punch unleashed carried a faint sound of air being torn apart, growing increasingly pronounced, the fist shadows becoming denser, and the force stronger. It truly resembled wave after wave pushing and pushing against each other. The secret of this stacking wave fist lies in the synergy of force, ultimately achieving a synergistic effect. Just as Xiao Lingyun was watching with great approval, suddenly, the rolling shadows of fists in front of him burst apart like soap bubbles. Xiao Lingyun was slightly taken aback. When he saw Zhao Sandy's handsome face turn a deep liver color, he immediately understood what had happened. He deliberately teased, why did you stop? I was just wondering if I could block it if the punch had been 30 to 50% stronger. Pfft. Zhao Sandy, who was already feeling extremely uncomfortable from the shock of his punch hitting the target, immediately spat out a mouthful of blood in anger upon hearing these words. No way, Zhao Sandy, your Zhao family's boxing style requires spitting blood to fight. Xiao Lingyun's words caused Zhao Sandy to spit out another mouthful of blood. Ha ha ha. Upon hearing Xiao Lingyun's words and comparing them to Zhao Sandy's condition, the onlookers burst into laughter. Xiao Lingyun, go to hell. After spitting out 2 mouthfuls of blood, Zhao Sandy finally expelled the pent-up breath from his chest and abdomen. Hearing the laughter around him, Zhao Sandy, filled with shame and anger, didn't even bother to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. With a furious roar, he lunged forward with a ferocious expression and punched Xiao Lingyun squarely in the chest. This time, Zhao Sandy did not choose to use the overlapping wave fist. Instead, he used a frontal attack move from the Cloud Tiger Fist, a basic fist technique that most of the Lingyun courtyard disciples had practiced, the Cloud Tiger Hammer Strike. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Lingyun's lips. No dodge. With a sudden shift in his waist, his right fist slammed out. It was also a move, Cloud Tiger Hammer Strike. Crack, 2 identical Black Tiger Hammer Strike techniques collide head-on without any fancy moves. Crack. Immediately afterwards, a slight cracking sound of bone breaking rang out. Zhao Sandy staggered back 3 large steps, supporting his trembling right hand with his left. At the same time, a low, suppressed groan escaped Zhao Sandy's lips. Staring at Xiao Lingyun, his eyes were filled with utter disbelief. You, how can you have such strength? Cai Ming, who had struggled to his feet, was also in disbelief. He knew Zhao Sandy's strength very well. In terms of combat power, even 2 Cai Mings might not be a match for Zhao Sandy, but at this moment, his hand bones had been shattered by a single punch from the other party. Is this guy still that good for nothing who only leveled up 3 times in 2 years? Could it be that this kid is no longer a level 3 martial artist? The fact that he killed the giant earth bear that day was not just good luck, but that he really has the strength. Thinking of this, a trace of fear flashed involuntarily in Cai Ming's eyes as he looked at Xiao Lingyun again. Let's go. The tall young man on the outskirts of the crowd chuckled, turned around, and strode away first. Brother Yi, awesome. Quan followed, giving a thumbs up with a look of admiration. A few minutes later, alright, this fist technique and palm technique are worth 20 gold coins each. You two still owe me 55 gold coins. Remember, you have to pay them back within a month. If you miss the deadline, you'll get 1 gold coin in interest every day. Haha, thank you both for the martial arts manuals and the gold coins. Xiao Lingyun laughed heartily, put away the 2 martial arts manuals and the IOU with their bloody handprints on it, and strode away. Putting aside the fact that killing or maiming these 2 idiots in front of everyone was inappropriate, even in the wilderness, Xiao Lingyun didn't want to kill them outright. He wanted to slowly collect the interest. Having experienced 3 lifetimes, he deeply understood the phrase a fate worse than death. He would make good use of these 4 words. He wanted Wan, Zhao Mingjian, Zhao Sandy, and the others to truly understand what a fate worse than death meant. Cai Ming and Zhao Sandy both looked ashen-faced. The crowd gradually dispersed. A private room on the 2nd floor of a restaurant about 60 meters away. By the window, there are 2 people sitting there. Seated at the head of the table on the left was a tall, elderly man with a magnificent beard and a ruddy complexion. To the lower right is a burly man with a rugged and fierce appearance. At this moment, the tall, elderly man smiled at the burly man opposite him and said, Tingtian, those 3 lads are from your academy, right? After watching them twice, tell me, those 2 who called him trash are the real trash. Without some extraordinary opportunity, they have no chance of advancing to become spirit warriors. As for that kid surnamed Xiao, although his strength isn't high, he's quite cunning and has decent talent. He has a chance to advance to become a spirit warrior. The burly man replied respectfully. That's all? Tingtian, you should be aware of the current situation of our Lingxi Hall branch. You know why we placed you in this separate courtyard, don't you? The old man slightly opened his eyes, glanced indifferently at the burly man, and a sharp glint flashed in the depths of his eyes. Disciple understands, but, Uncle Master. Under the old man's glance, this seemingly fierce and burly man involuntarily lowered his body and stammered. You understand? You've been in this courtyard for 3 years now, haven't you? Think about it yourself. In these 3 years, how many truly promising talents have you discovered for our Lingxi Hall? At first, we thought the disciples of your Lingyun courtyard were of average quality, but now it seems that your judgment was truly flawed. The old man's voice gradually turned cold. No wonder, back when you advanced to the Spirit Master level, it took old Qi 10 years to collect all that Bingguyu Gang Qi. That's a full 3 portions. With exceptional talent and good fortune, one could potentially cultivate the Bingguyu Gang Qi of 3 Spirit Masters. With your poor judgment of character, it's no wonder you've been stuck at the beginner level of Spirit Master for 10 years, unable to advance. And your spiritual sense is still at this level. The old man thought bitterly to himself. Hearing the old man's increasingly cold and hard words, cold sweat instantly broke out on the burly man's face, and he seemed to shrink even smaller. Yes, Uncle Master is right. That young fellow surnamed Xiao is a promising talent. His behavior suits my temperament perfectly. You should train and observe him carefully for a while. I'm leaving. With that, the old man's figure vanished in an instant. Yes, Uncle Master. Even though the old man had already gone far away, the burly man still bowed respectfully towards the spot where the old man had been sitting and answered. Upon opening the elixir bottle, a drop of bright red liquid, as clear and translucent as blood agate, fell with a plop into a large wooden tub in the room that was already half filled with water. Instantly, the originally crystal clear water turned crimson, and in the next instant, a surge of heat rose from the tub. Xiao Lingyun quickly took off his clothes, leaving only a pair of shorts, and lightly floated down into the huge wooden tub. Call? The familiar burning sensation instantly surged into his mind. Almost as soon as Xiao Lingyun sat down in the spiritual liquid, his body involuntarily shivered. Everything was so familiar. For a fleeting moment, Xiao Lingyun was distracted, as if he had returned to the moment 60,000 years ago when he underwent the tempering of his body by the spiritual liquid. But immediately, he calmed his mind and began to circulate the Chaos Supreme God technique, directly cultivating in the scalding hot medicinal liquid. What other martial artists would probably find difficult to endure for more than a few dozen breaths was, in his eyes, like taking a hot bath. The abundant medicinal power absorbed the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the air, circulating throughout the body. Xiao Lingyun's chest rose and fell slightly as he breathed, 3 inhalations and 1 exhalation in a rhythmic pattern. With each inhalation, a wisp of crimson liquid would rise and form a blood-red mist, like a red sword of energy, which would be drawn into his mouth and nose and transformed into gurgling energy entering his body. As the energy flowed into his body, Xiao Lingyun's still somewhat immature face slowly developed a luster as smooth as blood jade. Half an hour later, the steam rising in the room dissipated, the red color of the medicinal liquid in the huge wooden barrel faded, and it became murky and without any heat. Xiao Lingyun, who had been persevering, relaxed slightly, and his body slumped against the barrel wall. A moment later, Xiao Lingyun, who had recovered slightly, devoured the 2 large bowls of food and the 5 gold coin per bottle 5 treasures medicinal wine that had been prepared on the table, like a hungry wolf that had not hunted any prey all winter. The process of body tempering and consuming large amounts of food was repeated 3 times. In 3 days, after 3 rounds of body tempering, Xiao Lingyun's body faintly possessed a bronze luster. The bronze hammer body, which many martial artists need to spend months or even a year or 2 to master, he only used 3 days and 3 blood silk spirit jade body tempering liquids to reach the minor completion stage. Bronze hammer body when cultivated to perfection, the skin all over the body will be as hard as refined copper, and physical strength will increase by 50%. It can withstand the slashes of a level 7 martial artist's blade. During the 3 days of body tempering, Xiao Lingyun also reviewed the fist and palm techniques he had stolen from Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming. His mind was filled with countless high-level spiritual techniques, soul secrets, and even god-level cultivation skills, but the low-level martial arts suitable for this body were extremely scarce. Even if Xiao Lingyun possessed the ability to turn the impossible into the possible, he still needed the impossible first. Falling Blossom Palm was a high-grade mortal martial art, while Overlapping Wave Fist, though only having the first 6 levels, required prior experience fighting Zhao Sandy, and then having Zhao Sandy personally copy the key points of the first 6 levels of the fist technique. With Xiao Lingyun's vision and experience, he deciphered the Overlapping Wave Fist in less than 2 hours, directly condensing and simplifying the Zhao family's renowned Overlapping Wave Fist into a completely new fist technique with only 3 moves. Xiao Lingyun called this fist technique the Thunderbolt Cone Fist, all 3 moves being powerful and fierce attacks. First move, Thunderclap. Second move, Double Thunder Hammers. Third move, Thunder Cone Fist. With the Cloud Tiger Fist imbued with fist intent, the new Falling Blossom Palm, the Thunderbolt Cone Fist, and the improved basic sword style, these 4 martial arts have solved the problem of Xiao Lingyun's martial arts realm. Each martial art has undergone a completely new transformation in his hands. His physical condition has improved significantly, and he has also mastered martial arts and swordsmanship. If there is anything lacking, it is that he is missing a good weapon. The longsword issued by the villa is only suitable for daily training and is far from being a true weapon for combat. 3 contribution points and nearly 100 gold coins should be enough to pick out a suitable weapon from the weapon pavilion. As he got dressed and opened the door, a pretty young girl appeared before Xiao Lingyun's eyes. Wan, the fiancé to whom the previous owner of this body was betrothed since childhood? Looking at the pretty yet arrogant face before him, Xiao Lingyun's smile gradually froze. I heard that you defeated Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming a few days ago. Wan's cold voice rang out. You didn't come all this way just to congratulate me, did you? Xiao Lingyun said with a hint of sarcasm. Don't think you're so great just because you beat 2 good-for-nothings. Wan's pretty face darkened, her tone cold and harsh. To be arrogant when you don't have much ability is foolish. 2 years at level 4, in the entire courtyard, you're only below average. 3 days ago, I broke through and entered level 7. You'll never catch up to me in this lifetime. The gap between us will only widen. I've already sent a letter home to terminate our agreement. I came here today to inform you. For your own safety, you'd better also write a letter home agreeing to terminate the agreement. For your own safety? Xiao Lingyun let out a soft sigh, suppressing the anger in his heart. I will write home. Even if you don't mention it, I will still annul our engagement. After a slight pause, Xiao Lingyun stared at the other person and said, word by word, because I want to choose my own partner, and you are not my type. You, well, you actually managed to say something like that, which makes me look at you in a new light. Wan was clearly angry, but she quickly calmed down and handed over a small bottle of pills. Consider this qi and blood pill a small compensation from me. Qi and blood pill, a pill used by 7th level martial artists to refine their qi and blood. No need. I have plenty of pills if I want them. Xiao Lingyun didn't even glance at the bottle of pills, refusing outright. Let alone the fact that the qi and blood pill was no longer of much use to his body after 3 rounds of blood silk spirit jade tempering. Even if it were more useful, he wouldn't deign to take it. Especially since it was given to him by that little wench Wan. I'll never catch up to you. If we were cultivation partners, I truly would never catch up, because I wouldn't even bother chasing you. As for cultivation level, a 7th level martial artist? This ant dares to boast before me? Heh, just wait and see. I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. Xiao Lingyun strode towards the weapons pavilion. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out, Brother Yun. Fatty? Hey, soldier. Xiao Lingyun waved and greeted him. Brother Yun, I heard that a few days ago, not only did you beat up those 2 guys Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming, but you also lost over 100 gold coins to them? That was so satisfying. Pan Xiaobing hooked his arm around Xiao Lingyun's shoulder, his face beaming with pride for his brother. Weapon pavilion? Brother Yun, aren't you going to the leopard martial arts arena? Today is the students' intensive training day. Look around, everyone's heading to their respective training grounds. It's okay if the weapons are a little late. Let's go to the leopard martial arts arena first. If the students don't go to their training grounds, The fat man shuddered, clearly thinking of something bad. The martial arts training ground, the intensive instruction time? Xiao Lingyun scratched his head and laughed. He had completely forgotten about it if Pan Xiaobing hadn't reminded him. At Lingyun Courtyard, all instructors only hold intensive classes for 3 days each month, the 1st, 10th, and 20th. Students are free to cultivate at other times. Today happens to be November 20th. The instructors at Lingyun Academy divide the students into 3 major realms based on their cultivation level for intensive instruction. Students at levels 1 to 3 are taught entirely by instructors with cultivation levels of level 7, while students at levels 4 to 6 are taught by instructors with cultivation levels of level 8 or even level 9. Students whose cultivation reaches levels 7 to 9 are all taught by spirit masters. As for spirit masters, there are probably only a handful in the entire Lingyun Academy. The most well-known among the students is the Dean of Lingyun Academy, Qi Tingtian, who is said to be a powerful 3rd-grade spirit master. Lingyun Villa is very large, with 5 school districts, east, west, south, north, and central. Each region has tens of thousands of students. Besides Dean Qi Tingtian overseeing the entire academy, there are 5 headmasters in each of the 5 major areas. Students study in their respective areas. Xiao Lingyun, Pan Xiaobing, Wan, and including Zhao Mingjian, Zhao Sandy, Cai Ming, and others, all belong to the Southern School District. Regardless of the school district, the number of students with martial arts cultivation levels 4 to 6 is always the largest. In the Southern District of the Detached Academy, there are over 7,000 students at this level of cultivation. What? Why is this kid here? Cai Ming's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he saw Xiao Lingyun with his arm around Pan Xiaobing, a level 4 martial artist. Zhao Sandy, standing beside him, had a grim expression, looking at Xiao Lingyun as if he wanted to tear a piece of flesh off him. Hey, isn't that Xiao Lingyun? This guy has finally shed his 2nd or 3rd-rate trash reputation and advanced to level 4 martial artist before the end of the year. The fat man's physique was quite outstanding, and Xiao Lingyun next to him also attracted a lot of attention. One student said, I heard that Xiao Lingyun defeated Cai Ming and Zhao Sandy in public in town a few days ago, which can be considered a preliminary step in shedding his good-for-nothing reputation. Really? Zhao Sandy is a peak 4th level martial artist, and he actually lost to someone who just entered the 4th level. A student who hadn't heard of this before was somewhat skeptical. It's true, hundreds of people witnessed Xiao Lingyun defeat Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming that day. Really? Cai Ming and Zhao Sandy are really pathetic. They were actually defeated by a student who just entered the 4th level of martial arts? They have the nerve to call others trash. Turns out, they're the real trash. The whispers reached Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming's ears, making their ears burn with embarrassment. Cai Ming, his face flushed, shouted, reporting to the instructor, aren't newcomers required to undergo a test to prove their cultivation level before entering the Leopard Martial Arts Arena to attend classes? Leopard Martial Arts Arena, the largest martial arts training ground in the Southern School District, is hosting its last intensive training session of the month today. More than 30 instructors arrived at the arena early. Upon hearing this, a burly instructor waved and called out, Xiao Lingyun, come here. Xiao Lingyun ran over and bowed respectfully, Instructor Zhao. This burly man was none other than Zhao Changgong, who had rescued Pan Xiaobing from the back mountain at his request. Moreover, it was said that he was somewhat related to Elder Zhao Wenzuo of the Pill Pavilion. In Xiao Lingyun's mind, among all the instructors and elders of the Lingyun Villa, these two from the Zhao family were undoubtedly the closest to him. Life is unpredictable, and ironically, Zhao Mingjian and Zhao Sandy, who harbored the deepest grudges against him, also shared the surname Zhao. Of course, Xiao Lingyun knew that the first two Zhaos and the latter two were merely of the same surname, not from the same clan. Seeing Zhao Changgong call Xiao Lingyun over for testing, many students whispered among themselves. After all, Xiao Lingyun, this good-for-nothing, was quite famous in the Southern School District. I wonder how well this guy will perform. A newly promoted 4th-level martial artist typically has a strength of around 450 jin, approximately 225 catties, but Xiao Lingyun was able to defeat Zhao Sandy, so his strength is estimated to exceed 500 jin. 500, that's an excellent score for a newly promoted level 4 martial artist. If this guy can really break 500, then he'll truly be rid of the trash label. Amidst the whispers of the students, test, go all out. Zhao Changgong said succinctly. Xiao Lingyun nodded and walked to a force measuring pillar that had been standing in the Leopard Martial Arts Arena for testing students' punching power for many years. He took a deep breath, stepped forward with his left foot, and slammed his right fist into the force measuring pillar. Thunderbolt fist first move, thunderclap. Pang. A flash of light followed a muffled thud. The next moment, 3 large, silvery numbers, each the size of a human head, appeared above the force measuring column, 726. Staring at the 3 gleaming silver numbers that seemed to possess a magical power, Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming's eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. They wanted to question Xiao Lingyun's status as a level 4 martial artist, but these 3 large silver characters felt like 3 slaps to their faces. Not only that, the entire Leopard Arena fell into complete silence in that instant. Has a newly promoted 4th-level martial artist possessed a punching force exceeding 700 jin, approximately 350 kilograms, ever been seen in the history of this annex? If people like that are all useless, then at least 90% of the students in the detached courtyard are useless. And the worst of the worst. Brother Yoon, you're awesome. A level 4 martial artist's punching power is nearly 100 times stronger than mine, who's only half a step away from becoming a level 6 martial artist. Just thinking about the incredulous, ghost-like expressions on Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming's faces makes me feel so good. Pan Xiaobing hooked his arm around Xiao Lingyun's shoulder, looking incredibly excited. Why haven't I seen Zhao Mingjian and Wan today? I haven't even used my bronze hammer body yet. If I did, my scores would skyrocket. A faint smile played on Xiao Lingyun's lips as he asked. You didn't know? Wan broke through to level 7 martial artist 3 days ago and has already left our main force to go to the Lion Martial Arena? Zhao Mingjian, I heard, is currently in seclusion seeking a breakthrough. Oh right, when Wan, that little wench, came to me to break off the engagement, she mentioned that she had already advanced to the 7th level of martial arts. Once Zhao Mingjian emerges from seclusion, he will likely be a level 7 martial artist. That's good. The higher one's strength and the more talented one is, the greater and deeper the pain of being knocked down from the clouds will be. Weapon Pavilion. The Xiantai Heavy Sword. A top-grade weapon among ordinary martial arts? Great, this is it? Bring me this sword. Xiao Lingyun said, pointing to the Xiantai Heavy Sword. Bang! I want this Xiantai Heavy Sword. Suddenly, the counter was slammed with a heavy fist, and a rough voice declared arrogantly. Xiao Lingyun and Fatty Pan Xiaobing both turned their heads to look. 3 steps away, 3 teenagers were looking back at the two with defiant expressions. What a fearless lackey. Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming flanked a tall and strong young man. Niu Shan? Xiao Lingyun quickly searched his mind, and the name of this tall, strong young man immediately came to mind. Niu Shan, a fierce general under Zhao Mingjian, is a peak level 5 martial artist. He has honed his physical strength since childhood, making him even stronger than some newly entered level 6 martial artists in the academy. Niu Shan, what do you mean? Are you deliberately picking a fight? Pan Xiaobing roared. Hey, Fatty Pan, who's this Xiao kid to you? Why are you protecting him like this? Looking for trouble? Haha, let me tell you straight, I'm here to cause trouble today. What, you want to bite me? Niu Shan was extremely arrogant. You The fat man was about to jump up and down. Hey soldier, what are you doing? Fighting a bull. Xiao Lingyun tightened his grip, forcing the fat man's gaze to the steward behind the counter. His voice wasn't loud, but it was extremely firm. Bring me the sword. Bang. Niu Shan slammed his fist on the counter again and roared, I want this sword. The steward behind the counter frowned slightly. Why are you two so fixated on just one sword? There are plenty of other sharp weapons here. This is the one I've got my eye on. This is the only one that Master Niu has his eye on. Niu Shan continued arrogantly. Since neither of you is willing to back down, and you both seem to have your eyes on it at almost the same time, according to the rules of the villa, the highest bidder wins. This Xiantai heavy sword originally cost 8 contribution points. Make your bids. This sword costs 8 contribution points. Xiao Lingyun was shocked. He originally had 3, and after passing the level 4 martial artist test, he got 3 more, for a total of 6 contribution points. Ha ha ha, trash. You don't even have any contribution points, yet you dare to come here to exchange for a high-grade weapon. Zhao Sandy, standing beside Niu Shan, immediately mocked Xiao Lingyun upon seeing his expression. 8 contribution points, I'll take them. Niu Shan slammed his identity badge on the counter with a loud bang. This student. The steward behind the counter looked at Xiao Lingyun. Xiao Lingyun's expression darkened slightly, and he turned to leave, but the fat man grabbed him, shouting triumphantly at the deacon, 9 contribution points. Pan Xiaobing, are you going to oppose me? Niu Shan glared with his bull-like eyes, his fierce gaze fully revealed. I'm going against you, so what? What are you going to do about it? The fat man retorted without hesitation. Fatty, you've got guts. Niu Shan pointed at the fat man, then turned around, 10 contribution points. 11 contribution points, 12 contribution points, 15 contribution points, 16 contribution points. Niu Shan said viciously. The fat man spread his hands, a broad smile on his face. Young Master Niu, you're really something? Tisk tisk, 16 contribution points? Double the price? You're really rich and powerful? This sword is yours. Brother Yun, let's go. Good job, fatty. Ha ha ha. Xiao Lingyun burst into laughter. All the pent-up anger in his chest was released at this moment, especially seeing the furious expressions of Niu Shan, Zhao Sandy, and Cai Ming. There was only one word to describe it, exhilarating. That was awesome. Niu Shan gritted his teeth, glaring at Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming. Give me all the contribution points you have. Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming, utterly frustrated, reluctantly pulled out their identity tokens. The three of them finally managed to exchange for the Xiantai heavy sword after collecting 16 contribution points. Brother Shan, are we just going to let it go like this? Zhao Sandy was filled with resentment. Go. Niu Shan, carrying his heavy sword, strode out. Xiao Lingyun, as long as you go to the martial arts arena and fight Brother Shan, regardless of victory or defeat, this Xiantai heavy sword is yours, how about it? Although Zhao Sandy's tone was calm, the ruthlessness that flashed deep in his eyes betrayed his true thoughts. Niu Shan, let's fight on the fighting stage. If Xiao Lingyun's initial acceptance of Fatty as a friend was somewhat based on the memories of the body's former owner, then today, Fatty's sincere and repeated acts of protection have made Xiao Lingyun truly accept Fatty as a friend in his heart. Reaching out, he patted the fat man's broad shoulder. Getting a satisfactory weapon without spending a single contribution point, how could he refuse such a golden opportunity? Xiao Lingyun smiled and readily agreed. All right. Brother Yun, you. Fatty was getting a little anxious. Niu Shan wasn't Zhao Sandy or Cai Ming? Brother, you've forgotten the power of that punch I threw. Xiao Lingyun chuckled. Don't worry, this brute is nothing. Taking him down will be a piece of cake. All right, Xiao, for your courage alone, I'll stop calling you trash from now on. Niu Shan was overjoyed that Xiao Lingyun had actually agreed. Although he said this, he secretly planned to cripple him on the fighting stage. A true cripple wouldn't need to be mentioned. Let's name a time. There's no time like the present. Let's go now, shall we? Good. The group of 5 headed straight for the martial arts arena in the villa. Lingyun Academy comprises 5 academic districts with a total of nearly 70,000 students, all of whom are hot-blooded young men between the ages of 10 and 20. Martial artists are full of energy, and it is impossible to completely eliminate student conflicts. In order to resolve conflicts among students, each of the 5 academic districts has set up a martial arts arena, specifically for students to resolve disputes through combat. There are 2 types of duels on the martial arts arena. One is ordinary, where a winner is determined, and the other is a life or death duel. Once you step onto the stage, you are responsible for your own life and death. Xiao Lingyun and Niu Shan have agreed to a martial arts duel. This news spread like wildfire throughout the southern school district. Let's go, hurry to the fighting arena. One after another, figures rushed towards the fighting arena. Xiao Lingyun, that good for nothing, has he lost his mind? He actually dared to challenge Niu Shan to a duel on the martial arts stage. After years of being a good for nothing, he finally defeated Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming, and his ego swelled up. He even dared to dream of defeating Niu Shan. This Xiao Lingyun. In a certain area of the southern school district, one's pretty face was ashen. Fool. Going to the fighting arena on Niu Mountain, you'd be crippled even if you didn't die. You're courting death, so you can't blame anyone else. Throughout the entire southern school district, apart from Fatty Pan Xiaobing who still had some faith in Xiao Lingyun, not a single student was optimistic about him. On the dueling arena, a regular duel. The steward overseeing the dueling arena sized up Niu Shan and Xiao Lingyun. A fight to the death. Niu Shan said coldly. A fight to the death? Niu Shan, you're truly vicious? A murderous intent rose in Xiao Lingyun's heart. Since you seek death, I, the king, will grant your wish. Are both parties certain? Yes. Niu Shan and Xiao Lingyun nodded in unison. Sign and affix your seal. Breaking news. A life or death battle, someone shouted, bursting forward. A life or death battle? The hundreds of students who had rushed to the scene and gathered around the fighting arena were in an uproar. Regardless of the final outcome, based solely on this life or death duel, Xiao Lingyun is no trash in my eyes. Some people began to admire Xiao Lingyun's courage. Not everyone has the guts for a life or death battle. A life or death battle? Xiao Lingyun is risking his life to shake off the label of trash, someone mocked. How long do you think Xiao Lingyun can hold out against Niu Shan? Come on, place your bets. Place your bets. Xiao Lingyun dies, 2-1, seriously injured, 3-1, slightly injured, 1-2, Xiao Lingyun wins, 1-10. From 1 gold coin to 100 gold coins, we'll take them all. Betting closes when the two step onto the dueling platform. A voice rang out from the crowd. I've severely injured Xiao Lingyun, 10 gold coins. Seriously injured, 20 gold coins. Seriously injured, 50 gold coins. Death, 10 gold coins. Severely injured, 30 gold coins. In an instant, dozens of people placed their bets, resulting in either serious injury or death. Not a single person bet on even minor injuries. Damn it, I'm betting on Xiao Lingyun to win. 37 gold coins plus 28 silver coins. The fat man gritted his teeth and squeezed in, betting all the money he had on him. Is there really some idiot betting on that good for nothing to win? The tall, burly young man who was acting as the bookmaker glanced over and exclaimed, oh, I see. It's that chubby kid, that good for nothing's best buddy. As Xiao Lingyun and Niu Shan finished signing and came out, they heard the frantic betting noise. Niu Shan grinned, brandished his fist as big as a thunderbolt at Xiao Lingyun, and silently uttered, I'll beat you to death on this stage. Xiao Lingyun ignored the other person and called out to the fat man, little soldier. Brother Yun. Go, bet all of these on me, and I'll win. Okay. The fat man squeezed in again, slamming down his money pouch. Bet everything? Xiao Lingyun wins. Whoosh. A pile of glittering gold coins spilled out. 63 gold coins, bet on Xiao Lingyun to win, confirmed. The tall, burly young man sitting on the banker's desk seemed to see two gleaming words floating above the fat man's head, idiot. Sure. The fat man's bold move of betting 100 gold coins on Xiao Lingyun to win was seen as utterly foolish by the other bettors. On the fighting platform, which was 10 feet in diameter, the two stood facing each other. With a thud, Niu Shan plunged the Xiantai heavy sword into the stone platform. He clenched his fists, the joints cracking repeatedly, and a sinister voice rang out, boy, I'm not using a sword because I don't want to kill you in one go. I'm going to use these hands to shatter every bone in your body, piece by piece. Why are there always so many foolish megalomaniacs in this little world? Xiao Lingyun glanced speechlessly at Niu Shan, whose face was contorted in a ferocious grin. I have no interest in smashing every bone in your body, but I guarantee I'll destroy all your meridians. You? Destroy all my meridians? Ha ha ha, if you have that ability. Niu Shan burst into wild laughter. Is that so? Xiao Lingyun uttered the two words softly, and with a swift movement of his right foot, he appeared in front of his opponent, throwing a punch straight at Niu Shan's chest. Niu Shan only felt a blur before his eyes, and suddenly the opponent's fist was in front of him. The powerful force contained in the fist made even him, who always prided himself on his super strength, feel a little frightened. Niu Shan was no Zhao Sandy after all. He was shocked, but his reaction was extremely fast. He rapidly channeled his powerful internal energy and quickly crossed his hands in front of his chest. Boom! With a muffled thud, Xiao Lingyun's forward momentum faltered, while Niu Shan's tall figure staggered back 3 steps. In their first encounter, the strong and robust Niu Shan was surprisingly at a disadvantage, a result that left the hundreds of spectators in the audience speechless. Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming rubbed their eyes twice, unable to believe it. Even Niu Shan himself had a look of astonishment on his face. Xiao Lingyun's attacks were continuous. He knocked his opponent back with one punch, slipped his foot, and closed in, unleashing another lightning-fast left punch. Bang bang bang! Xiao Lingyun unleashed a barrage of punches with lightning speed, each punch carrying a force exceeding 700 jin, launching a powerful attack on Niu Shan. Niu Shan was flustered and in a sorry state. Although he managed to block Xiao Lingyun's 3 subsequent punches, he staggered back 5 steps and was blasted to the edge of the fighting stage by Xiao Lingyun's 4 punches. The students watching around the fighting arena were dumbfounded. The scene they had expected Niu Shan beating Xiao Lingyun to a pulp did not happen. Instead, Niu Shan was repeatedly defeated by Xiao Lingyun. Fatty Pan Xiaobing's excited shouts were so abrupt and loud in the silence of everyone else. Ha ha ha, brother Yun, beat him to a pulp. Turn this stupid bull into a pig's head. Niu Shan, is this all you're capable of? You can only parry. Ah. Enraged by Xiao Lingyun's words, Niu Shan roared and threw out his right fist without regard for anything else. I've been waiting for you. Xiao Lingyun's expression darkened slightly. He circulated his inner energy at high speed, no longer holding back, and unleashed a powerful punch to meet the opponent's right fist. Crack. As his fists collided, Niu Shan felt as if his fists had struck a giant, powerfully swung hammer. The sound of bones cracking rang out clearly. Under the immense force of the impact, his arm bone snapped. The intense pain caused Niu Shan to let out a blood-curdling scream, like a pig being slaughtered. The scream had barely risen when, bang, a foot landed squarely on Niu Shan's stomach. The force of the kick was so great that it sent Niu Shan's tall, muscular body flying backward like a tattered sack. Thump. Niu Shan crashed to the ground from the fighting platform, kicking up a cloud of dust. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, his head lolled to the side, and he passed out instantly. This series of actions happened too fast, even the stewards responsible for guarding the fighting arena couldn't react in time. Niu Shan had already been knocked down and knocked unconscious by Xiao Lingyun. With 2 quick leaps, the steward darted to Niu Shan's side, reached out a hand, and his expression changed. With his internal energy in disarray and his danshan damaged, Xiao Lingyun's kick directly destroyed Niu Shan's level 5 martial arts cultivation. A fight to the death? Even if you cripple someone, or even kill them on the spot, it won't violate the rules. Standing high on the fighting platform, Xiao Lingyun's gaze fell upon the horrified Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming. Without any attempt to conceal it, he made a gesture of elimination towards the 2 of them from his vantage point. A single glance from Xiao Lingyun sent a chill down their spines, as if they had fallen into an abyss. Then, seeing that murderous gesture, the usually arrogant Zhao Sandy's legs went weak, and he nearly collapsed to the ground. With a thud, Cai Ming, standing beside him, was even more terrified, completely swayed by Xiao Lingyun's single look and gesture, and fainted. Far away, a chubby figure's eyes flashed with surprise. A level 4 martial artist had actually crippled a student at the peak of level 5. This kid Xiao Lingyun, besides possessing an ancient medicinal formula, is also incredibly strong in combat. He's a promising talent. He deserves close attention. If the ancient prescription last time made Zhao Wenzhuo quite fond of Xiao Lingyun, then witnessing Xiao Lingyun's battle with Niu Shan this time made Zhao Wenzhuo truly value Xiao Lingyun. This day was nothing short of an earthquake for the Lingyun Villa Southern School District. Xiao Lingyun and Niu Shan engaged in a life-or-death battle on the martial arts stage, and the result surprised 99% of the people. Xiao Lingyun, who has long been known as a second or third-rate waste and only has the cultivation of a 4th-level martial artist, easily crippled Niu Shan, who had the cultivation of a 5th-level martial artist at its peak. This battle not only completely removed Xiao Lingyun's reputation as a good-for-nothing, but many gossips even hailed him as a rising star in the Southern School District. Another genius, Cai Ming and Zhao Sandy, who were so frightened they fainted, became the laughingstock of the entire Lingyun villa. The news spread quickly. When the news reached Wan's ears, this beautiful and delicate young woman frowned slightly. She actually defeated Niu Shan. Defeating a bull makes someone a genius? Then there are far too many geniuses? A rising star? That's all. Ha ha ha. Brother Yun, 1,000 gold coins? Here, this is yours, 700 gold coins. The fat man was very excited. Not only did he win money, but he was even happier for Xiao Lingyun. His brother had shown the world with his fierce fighting power that he was not a waste, but a true genius, a true rising star. Xiao Lingyun took the heavy money bag from the fat man, took out 3 small pill bottles, and handed them to him. Little soldier, these are 3 doses of body-tempering liquid. They should help you break through to level 6 martial artist before the competition. Brother Yun, in this competition, we 2 brothers are going to shine and try to break into the top 10. Good. The 2 brothers high-fived, their spirits soaring. Ling Yun, come here, a voice rang out. Xiao Lingyun bid farewell to Pan Xiaobing and quickly stepped forward. Elder, is there something you need? Zhao Wenzhuo pondered for a moment and then asked, Ling Yun, were any of your ancestors medicine merchants or alchemists? The elder is. Ahem, I was thinking about that ancient medicinal formula you gave me last time. If it was from your ancestors, never mind, would you be interested in alchemy? Alchemy? Teach me alchemy. Xiao Lingyun lowered his eyes, amusement creeping into his heart. Elder, I don't know if there were any alchemists in our family, but I do remember several pill formulas. What is the highest grade of pills you can currently refine? A pill formula. Zhao Wenzhuo exclaimed excitedly, I can now refine up to a mid-grade 2nd level pill. Mid-tier, grade 2. Then I'll give you 2 2nd-grade pill formulas and 1 3rd-grade pill formula. Sanking pill grade 2, Yuanling pill grade 2, Raoshui pill grade 3. Grade 3 pill formulas. Holding the papers, Zhao Wenzhuo's chubby hands trembled with excitement. Ling Yun, I will submit these 3 pill formulas to the sect after verifying them, and they will be converted into sect contribution points for you. Elder, there's no rush. We can settle the score after I enter the inner sect. Inner sect? Yes. As long as these 3 pill formulas are confirmed to be genuine, I, Zhao Wenzhuo, guarantee you entry into the sect's inner sect. Ling Yun, what do you need right now? Just tell me if it's within my power. Right now, we really don't need to. Here you go. With your current physical strength, this bottle of qi and blood pills is just right. By the way, the rewards for the top 10 in this competition will be higher than before, and your cultivation will advance even further. I believe you have a good chance of making it into the top 10. Zhao Wenzuo took out a medium-sized pill bottle and stuffed it into Xiao Lingyun's hand. 3 pill formulas were exchanged for this bottle of qi and blood pills for martial artists. Old Zhao, let's see how you perform next. Xiao Lingyun squeezed the pill bottle in his hand and put it into his pocket. Standing before a courtyard in the Lingyun villa, Zhao Sandy gazed at the building with a gloomy expression. I wonder if Brother Jian will successfully break through and enter the ranks of the 7th level spirit apprentice this time. Who would have thought that even Niu Shan was crippled by that good-for-nothing? Brother Jian should be breaking through this time, he's been in seclusion for almost a week. Cai Ming said from the side. The day Brother Jian emerges from seclusion will be the day that brat surnamed Xiao is crippled. Zhao Sandy said bitterly. Time flies. There are only 2 days left until the grand competition at the villa in December. As Xiao Lingyun sat cross-legged, a series of thunderous roars echoed from his abdomen, and his bones cracked and popped throughout his body. He opened his eyes, a faint look of joy appearing on his face. Level 5 martial artist. Over the next 2 days, he will consolidate his cultivation level and familiarize himself with the footwork technique he has selected from the vast sea of spiritual skills and martial arts over the past 2 days, the spirit illusion step. Of course, with Xiao Lingyun's current cultivation level, this spirit illusion step can only be a simplified and weakened version. Xiao Lingyun had planned this grand competition for the villas long ago. He would remain silent until he made a stunning move. December 1st, early morning. From east to west, north to south, and center, the martial arts training grounds of the 5 major districts of Lingyun Courtyard were all packed with people. From this day forward, the month-long courtyard competition officially began. Tens of thousands of students of various levels will compete according to their cultivation level and academic district. The top 10 students in each district will be determined in 3 levels, high, medium, and low. Finally, the top 10 students from the 5 major academic districts will compete in a final showdown to determine the top 10 students from each district of the separate academy. Whether it's the top 10 in each division or the top 10 in the entire villa, there are substantial rewards, with the latter being even more generous. Xiao Lingyun, Pan Xiaobing, Cai Ming, Zhao Sandy, and others participated in the competition for martial arts students at levels 4 to 6 in the Southern School District, which is commonly known as the intermediate level contestants. Wan is participating in the advanced competition for martial arts practitioners at levels 7 to 9. It's unclear whether Zhao Mingjian has broken through. If he has, he'll be participating in the advanced competition. If not, he'll be participating in the intermediate competition. The total number of students in the 5 regions exceeds 70,000, with the North and South regions having the largest number of students. The Southern School District has a total of over 17,000 students. Apart from a very small number who were unable to participate in this competition due to being away from home or other reasons, a total of 15,879 students from the Southern School District participated this time. The lowest level had the fewest participants, with just over 2,300, while the highest level had over 6,100, and the middle level had a whopping 7,389. The venue for the intermediate level competition that Xiao Lingyun and others participated in was the Leopard Martial Arts Arena. The school district competition is divided into 4 stages. The first stage is the preliminary screening. More than 7,000 people were divided into 74 groups. The first 73 groups each had 100 people, and the last group had 89 people. Except for the last group which had 9 players advancing, the remaining groups selected the top 10 players, resulting in an elimination rate as high as 90%. More than 700 students advanced from the first stage, and after a second stage of elimination, the top 160 students in the school district were selected. In the third stage, the top 160 participants were drawn into pairs to compete against each other, ultimately determining the 10 winners. In the fourth stage, the 10 winners will compete in 9 rounds of matches, and the top 10 schools in the district will be determined based on their winning percentages. This series of competitions will last for a full 2 weeks. After the school district competition is completed, there will be a 5-day break for rest and adjustment, followed by a draw to determine the top 10 teams from each of the 5 districts. The top 10 teams from Lingyun Academy across the high, middle, and low grades will be determined in the end. On the left side of the Leopard Martial Arts Arena, several burly young men were chatting animatedly with a young man in blue robes. The young man in blue was tall and slender, with a broadsword slung diagonally across his shoulder. His expression was cold and stern, exuding a powerful confidence. In this year's competition, Quan Ji will definitely be among the top 10 in the school district, one of the boys said, looking at the boy in blue with admiration. Top 10? Needless to say, the top 3 will basically be decided among Quan Ji, Zhang Yun, Wang Yi, and Ye Feng, said another young man. All of them were at the peak of the 6th level of martial arts and were hailed as the most outstanding geniuses among the middle-level students in the Southern School District. Among them, Zhang Yun, Wang Yi, and brother Quan, Lu Ming Quan, all deliberately suppressed their cultivation levels and did not break through in order to prepare for this courtyard competition. Top 3, huh? Lu Ming Quan, looks like your underlings think highly of you. Suddenly, a voice came from the side. A group of people escorted a handsome young man in fine clothes as he walked over. Lu Mingquan glanced at the richly dressed young man's face, and his expression immediately darkened. Zhao Mingjian, weren't you supposed to be in seclusion to break through to the next level? I originally planned to break through, but then I thought about it, and the competition at the other courtyard is coming up soon. Rather than breaking through and remaining unknown at the high level, it's better to postpone it and try to win the championship at the mid-level. You guys can do this better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix thing, so why can't I do it too? Zhao Mingjian said with a bright smile. To win the middle-level championship, you need to have the ability. Lu Mingquan said coldly. Haha, if you, Lu Mingquan, can make it into the top 3, how can I, Zhao Mingjian, not win the championship? Zhao Mingjian, no breakthrough? Fine, this is a good opportunity to test just how powerful your Zhao family's overlapping wave fist really is. Another voice rang out. The newcomer was a handsome young man with a long sword in his hand and sharp eyes. He was somewhat thin, but he exuded a chilling and bloodthirsty aura. Blood sword, Ye Feng. Zhao Mingjian and Lu Mingquan both frowned slightly. While Zhang Yun, Wang Yi, Zhao Mingjian, and Lu Mingquan all had some idea of each other's strength, they were completely unaware of the true extent of this slender young man's combat prowess. All we know is that this guy, starting from the 4th level of martial arts, frequently went out, and almost every time he returned covered in injuries. In just 6 months, he jumped from level 4 to level 6 martial artist. It is said that recently the name Blood Sword, Ye Feng has even reached the ears of the headmaster, Qi Tingtian, attracting his attention. Blood Sword Ye Feng has truly experienced life and death trials, unlike the students who stay in the separate courtyard to cultivate. His experience and skills are obviously superior, which is why he is the guy they secretly fear the most. That depends on whether you can make it to the end. If you really make it into the top 10, I'll show you the power of the overlapping wave fist. Zhao Mingjian said naturally, his eyes fixed on Ye Feng. In a secluded corner of the leopard martial arts arena, 2 teenagers each tossed a money pouch to Zhao Sandy. We can't earn this money. Niu Shan was easily crippled by that guy. In the competition, we don't have the strength to humiliate such a formidable opponent. Xiao Lingyun arrived at the leopard martial arts arena almost right at the start of the competition, so naturally he didn't see any of these things. At 9 a.m., all trainees were divided into groups. There were a total of 74 groups, divided into 3 batches. The first 25 groups were tested first, and under the guidance of their instructors, they entered venues 1 to 25 to begin the first round of the competition. Xiao Lingyun's group was Group 19, which happened to be one of the first batch of trainees. The first round of elimination was simple and straightforward. It consisted of 3 parts. The first item is a strength test. The second item is the speed test. Thirdly, practical combat skills. Those who rank in the top 10 in all 3 categories will qualify. The first item is a strength test. The rules are simple. Punch or palm the strength test screen, and rank the scores from highest to lowest based on the numbers displayed on it, with the highest score being 100 points and the lowest being 1 point. As the instructor announced the start, the first boy to take the test stepped forward, took a deep breath, and with a swift movement, slammed his right fist into the strength testing screen in front of him. The light and shadow flickered, and a number appeared, 573. The tests proceeded quickly, one after another, 567, 532, 589. Xiao Lingyun received number 87 from Group 19, making him the 87th to appear in the test. Soon, more than half of the students finished the test, none of whom scored above 600. Then, the 60th student came out and punched out 603. After that, the number climbed steadily, and by the time it reached the tall student in front of Xiao Lingyun, the number had risen to 672. Xiao Lingyun glanced calmly at the scores achieved by the students ahead of him. His face remained expressionless. Previously, a level 4 martial artist had achieved a score of 726. Now, with his cultivation level even higher, he was ready to use his martial arts skills again. The thought flashed through my mind, and then the answer came to me. Since he was determined to make a name for himself this time, he naturally didn't need to hold back. The more talented he was, the more outstanding his performance, the more attention he would attract from the other academy, and consequently, from the higher UPS in the sect. The cultivation of spiritual practitioners at higher levels of martial arts is, frankly speaking, a brutal competition for resources. No sect will invest a lot of resources to cultivate someone who is not talented enough. Those who can get a sect to devote resources to their cultivation are all geniuses with exceptional talent. Make up your mind? A resolute glint flashed in Xiao Lingyun's eyes. With a swift movement, he leaped into the air like a cheetah, his arms bent, his hips swaying, and his right fist slammed out. The first move of the Thunderbolt Cone Fist, which was condensed and refined from the overlapping wave fist, was unleashed by Xiao Lingyun at this moment. With a dull thud, the test screen shook violently, and then a striking number shot up, 1000. When this number was announced, everyone, including the instructors and the staff from the other courtyard responsible for recording the grades, was stunned. This, am I seeing things? This guy actually got a perfect score? Lingyun Academy has a history of several hundred years, and there has never been a student who achieved a perfect score in the middle section. Holy crap, 1000 jin. Can this be real? Many trainees gaped, one of them exclaiming in surprise. How is that possible? No one in our academy's history has ever thrown a punch with the force of 1000 jin. Instructor, this testing screen, could it be broken? Another student questioned. It's important to understand that the highest level of intermediate level trainees is the peak cultivation of a 6th level martial artist. Being able to generate over 800 jin, approximately 400 kattis, of strength is already considered genius level, and historically, those who have generated over 900 jin can be counted on both hands. Therefore, throughout history, the display screen for testing strength in this intermediate level trainee competition has never exceeded 1000 jin, approximately 500 kattis. Good heavens, 1000 jin, 500 kilograms? A perfect score? The instructor in charge of the 19th group's test was a level 9 martial artist. He was initially astonished when he saw Xiao Lingyun's score, but now, hearing the student's doubts, his heart skipped a beat. Well, maybe there's something wrong with the testing screen? He looked Xiao Lingyun up and down, then said, "This student, please come here for a moment." Xiao Lingyun calmly stepped out of the line and stood next to the instructor. Instructor, next. Bang. A flash of light, 668. Upon seeing this number, the instructor's heart skipped a beat. The strength test screen was normal. This meant, instantly, a surge of excitement and exhilaration welled up from the depths of his heart. Our group has produced a genius, no, a super genius, a super genius unlike any other in the history of the academy. Go, call the head instructor and our district headmaster over, and bring over a strength testing screen for advanced students, quick. The instructor excitedly instructed the staff in the adjacent courtyard. During the subsequent tests, the instructor was clearly distracted, his entire focus on Xiao Lingyun sitting next to him. Soon, everyone in this group finished their tests. Except for Xiao Lingyun, the highest score was 745, a respectable 6th level martial arts student. The instructor remained standing in the strength testing area, unlike the other groups that had finished their tests, who led all the trainees into the second test. Since the instructor hadn't given the order to leave, the trainees naturally didn't dare to move around. All 19 groups stood quietly in the strength testing area, waiting patiently. A moment later, several bigwigs rushed over. Leading the group were two middle-aged men. The one on the left, dressed in a blue robe, possessed an elegant and ethereal air about him. He was none other than Wang Chang'an, the headmaster of the Southern School District. It was said that he was a spiritualist. The man on the right, dressed in black, is tall and muscular, exuding a powerful and domineering aura. This is Chiu Tiankai, the head instructor of the Southern School District, also a spiritualist. Test again. The two bigwigs had clearly already heard about it from the messenger. Without further ado, they spoke directly. Xiao Lingyun keenly sensed the profound and restrained immense power emanating from the two of them. These are clearly two big shots from the villa. They've all been lured here by me? Okay, it's just a test, isn't it? Under the instructor's guidance, Xiao Lingyun once again stood in front of the intermediate level student strength test screen. Bang! The light and shadow shook violently, and the full number 1000 reappeared before everyone's eyes. Excellent. Biehu Chiu Tiankai's leopard eyes suddenly flashed with two intimidating beams of light as he exclaimed in praise. Change the test screen. Wang Chang'an said calmly, a hint of something unusual in his eyes. The advanced student testing screen can test a force of up to 2000 jin. In the history of the academy, the highest record for advanced students is 1839. Taking a deep breath, his entire body surged with power. With a crack, dust billowed beneath his feet as Xiao Lingyun burst into the air, unleashing the first move of Thunderbolt Cone Fist, thunderous roar. Bang! A muffled thud, even deeper than before, resounded loudly. The test screen vibrated violently, and in the next instant, a striking number appeared before everyone's eyes, 1211. A level 5 student unleashed a power of 1211. Everyone present, except for the two big shots, was dumbfounded. Having achieved a perfect score of 1000 jin in the previous two tests, everyone, though unwilling to admit it, already knew in their hearts that the testing screen was probably working properly, and that Xiao Lingyun was most likely a genius. But this result still left the other trainees in Group 19 completely dumbfounded. Who could have imagined that this guy would be so monstrous? With a strength exceeding 1200 jin, he is already stronger than 70% of level 7 martial artists and even more than 30% of level 8 martial artists. The expressions in the two big shots changed at that moment. Genius? Super genius? An absolute prodigy? Haha, our Lingyun courtyard has produced an absolute prodigy? Ha ha ha, I'll be right back. The joy in Biehu Chiu Tiankai's eyes could no longer be suppressed. He laughed loudly, and the next moment, a strong body rose from the ground. In 2 leaps, he disappeared from the wide leopard martial arena. They need to invite a higher level expert? Watching the head instructor leave swiftly, a smile appeared on Xiao Lingyun's lips. A moment later, 3 figures darted over at high speed. Besides the tyrant Chiu Tiankai, there were 2 others, one tall and one fat. The tall one was none other than the dean of Lingyun Courtyard, Qi Tingtian. The fat one was even more familiar to Xiao Lingyun. He was none other than Zhao Wenzuo. Zhao Wenzuo happened to be chatting with Dean Qi when he heard Biehu's report, so he naturally came over as well. As soon as he landed, he saw Xiao Lingyun. Zhao Wenzuo could tell at a glance that Xiao Lingyun's cultivation had reached the 5th level of martial artist. Wow, he really did reach level 5 martial artist. That's some serious improvement speed. Knowing Xiao Lingyun's strength, Zhao Wenzuo was incredibly astute. He immediately realized that the super genius BA who had mentioned was Xiao Lingyun. He rushed to greet Xiao Lingyun enthusiastically before Dean Qi could even speak. Lingyun, your first strength test score should be pretty good, right? Did you break our academy's best score? Ha ha ha. Senior brother, this. Dean Qi was a little confused. Wasn't this student the little guy he and his uncle had seen at the market outside the academy who had defeated both of them? Fatty Zhao and this student seemed very familiar. Ha ha ha, my most promising young man, Xiao Lingyun. Elder Zhao was waiting for Dean Qi to speak, and upon hearing this, he immediately burst into laughter and replied, little brother. Even BA Hu Chiu Tiankai and Shenjiang Wang Chong'an were a bit stunned. This genius student was actually Elder Zhao's little brother? Then they realized, holy crap, Fatty Zhao, have you no shame? Knowing that someone is a super genius, you're already publicly recognizing him as a relative? Could this kid be the record-breaking genius? Dean Qi finally realized what was happening. A million curses ran through his mind. Damn it, this kid is incredibly talented. My martial uncle warned me about it back then, how come I didn't pay enough attention? Now, trying to snatch this spot from Fatty Zhao is going to be extremely difficult. This student, your name is? Dean Qi looked at Xiao Lingyun with a kind and gentle expression. Xiao Lingyun. Zhao Wenzhuo answered directly for Xiao Lingyun. Dean Qi was speechless once again. This Fatty Zhao was clearly asserting his right to preempt. Lingyun, right? Could you demonstrate it for Elder Zhao and me again? Hearing the dean address Elder Zhao as senior brother, and seeing Elder Zhao remain composed and speak freely in front of the dean, Xiao Lingyun could tell from this alone that Elder Zhao's true identity, strength, or backing was in no way inferior to the dean's. With Elder Zhao around, he wouldn't suffer any losses. Xiao Lingyun understood this perfectly. Good. These two are undoubtedly the most important and highest-ranking people in the entire Lingyun courtyard. If we don't show our strength now, when will we? My blood boiled with passion, and my fighting spirit surged. Xiao Lingyun poured his best energy and spirit into this punch. Bang! A deep, muffled sound echoed throughout the training ground. 1269, an even more striking number appeared. It was a staggering 58 jin, 24 caddies, increase compared to the last time. A monster? Absolutely monster. This was the common thought in the minds of everyone who witnessed this scene. Old Zhao was especially excited and happy. Ha ha ha. Good lad, your results are simply phenomenal. Ha ha ha, with those 3 pill formulas, plus Lingyun, this super genius, Old Zhao, will finally turn things around completely. Grand Master Uncle, I can finally return to the sect to see you, my esteemed master. Next, the 4 experts followed Group 19 through the entire testing process. The second test, speed. The passage is 2 kilometers long, containing 5 traps, 5 log obstacles, and 10 spell attacks, all of which are randomly changing. The large group of 100 people is divided into 10 smaller groups, with 10 people entering the test at the same time each time. The test score is calculated based on the final approved passing time. Each time you fall into a trap, are attacked by a log, or are attacked by a spell mark, the corresponding time will be deducted. Therefore, those barbarians who rely on their brute strength to withstand the attacks of the log magic seal and run all the way to the end will never achieve outstanding results. This test isn't just about speed, it also requires skill, especially a high level of dodging ability. The first group of 10 had a best score of 128 breaths, including being hit by a log twice and sustaining 5 marks. After deducting the time allotted, the best score was 376 breaths. The first 8 groups finished their tests quickly, with the best score improving to 65 breaths. The best result in the history of this project at the Academy is 16 breaths. Anyone who can get within 30 breaths can be considered a genius with outstanding talent. Seeing Xiao Lingyun and the other members of the 9th group standing at the entrance of the testing channel, the big shots, as well as all the trainees who had participated and the last group who had not, all widened their eyes. Lingyun, keep going? Zhao Wenzhuo couldn't help but clench his fists, silently cheering for Xiao Lingyun from the bottom of his heart. While the first few groups were taking the test, Xiao Lingyun was focused intently on seeing if he could find any patterns. However, after watching the tests of the first 8 groups of students, he realized that the trap logs in the passage were indeed randomly changing and there was no pattern to them at all. The only option is to adapt to the situation once you're inside. Begin. With the instructor's command, the 10 trainees exerted their strength simultaneously and began their charge. Xiao Lingyun took a step forward, his body already rushing forward, only covering 10 meters. A dark figure suddenly appeared before my eyes. Damn, the logs have appeared so quickly. Xiao Lingyun's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly pushed off the ground with his toes, his body leaping into the air. Whoosh! A log as thick as a bowl swept past his feet. With a whoosh, he landed, and in 2 quick strides, he accelerated again. Just as he gained momentum, a red light suddenly flashed before his eyes. Huh! Xiao Lingyun was slightly startled and quickly dodged to the side. Swoosh! A spell grazed his body and struck the wall of the passage beside him, causing the wall to ripple. Although the power of this spell attack had been weakened and would not seriously injure the student, it still had the impact of an arrow shot from a 300-stone bow with its tip broken. An impact of that magnitude would absolutely leave a bruise on the body. The pain alone would cause a noticeable decrease in a trainee's speed for an instant. Once you descend, if you relax your movements even slightly, a barrage of attacks will follow. Cries of pain came from other trainees. Clearly, this was only the beginning, and some trainees had already been affected. Concentrating intently, Xiao Lingyun ignored the attack and focused entirely on the test. After dodging the spell, he pushed off again and charged forward. Suddenly, a warning signal flashed in his mind. Almost instinctively, Xiao Lingyun's slender body leaped through the air, covering 8 meters in front of him. He rolled on the ground, stood up, and sprinted forward. Behind him, the ground churned like quicksand a trap. With a whoosh, his body dropped low, almost sliding along the ground, and a horizontal log swept over his head. Immediately afterward, Xiao Lingyun braced himself against the ground with his right hand, and his body rolled upward. Sizzle. A red spell swept past beneath his body. Good lad, well done. Outside, old Zhao's eyes gleamed. Halfway through the journey, Xiao Lingyun hadn't fallen for any traps or spells yet, and had perfectly avoided the 3 logs. Such reaction speed, and that almost supernatural perception, good heavens, this is a true super genius. The eyes of the several bigwigs, including Dean Qi, all shone brightly. They had also participated in this kind of test back then, and they were halfway through the journey completely unharmed. This level of skill was something that even the most outstanding geniuses back then couldn't achieve, let alone them. Xiao Lingyun was highly focused, having already left the other 9 people far behind. His movements were fluid and rhythmic, like a tiger leaping, a fish soaring, tumbling, and flying sideways. The passage mechanism seemed to have been stimulated, or rather, it had begun to grasp the pattern of his progress. The traps became more concealed and more threatening, and Xiao Lingyun felt the pressure. A spell flew past him, barely grazing his forehead, and the sharp energy of the spell left a thin bloodstain on his forehead. The unprecedented concentration of his attention caused a sudden sense of alarm to rise in his mind once again. This time, he almost obeyed his body's will and lunged to the side. He narrowly avoided the last trap. His body sprang into the air. Just then, 3 spells, accompanied by a terrifying whistling sound, shot towards Xiao Lingyun in midair in a triangular formation. Xiao Lingyun's eyes narrowed, and his hands, arms, and entire body suddenly curled into a ball in midair, like a rapidly compressed sphere, passing through the gap between the 3 triangular spells. Great! Even Dean Qi couldn't help but applaud upon seeing this. Oh no! Almost instantly, old Zhao's expression changed. Just as Xiao Lingyun curled up into a ball and passed through the gap between the 3 spells, a red light flashed in the air and arrived in front of Xiao Lingyun. At this moment, Xiao Lingyun was in midair, unable to gain any support, and his body was not yet fully extended. Under these circumstances, it was impossible for him to dodge the attack of this red magical light again. Just as the red light was about to pierce into Xiao Lingyun's body, Xiao Lingyun made a move in midair. He clenched his right fist, raised it, and threw a punch diagonally downwards from above. The fist, without any fancy moves, struck the red light at a 30-degree angle. A powerful force surged from his fist, causing Xiao Lingyun to let out a low groan as his fist was torn and bleeding. However, he seemed to feel nothing at all, and instead used the upward impact to propel himself into the air. The power of this spell mark was significantly higher than in the previous rounds of student tests. The power of this spell was almost equivalent to a punch thrown with full force by a 6th-level martial artist using a high-grade martial art. Not only was the power strong, but it was also extremely concentrated. If Xiao Lingyun hadn't used some skillful force in it, it wouldn't have been as simple as just a physical injury. But precisely because this spell mark was so powerful, Xiao Lingyun used the recoil from the punch to flip his body upwards, narrowly avoiding a log that was following him. It was an unexpected stroke of luck. With that, all attacks have ended. But Xiao Lingyun was completely unaware. He was still fully immersed in the test, moving with incredible speed like a nimble cat. Whoosh, 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 until a bright light flashed before his eyes and he burst out of the testing tunnel. Only then did Xiao Lingyun realize that he had already finished the test. Almost simultaneously, the tester's excited voice rang out from the end of the passage, 16 breaths. 16 breaths. That equals the best result the villa has achieved in hundreds of years. The eyes of these powerful figures gleamed. They had witnessed the entire event and knew that Xiao Lingyun's score, strictly speaking, was closer to 15 breaths, within 16 breaths, because the power of his final spell was clearly a level higher. Under these circumstances, this guy had actually tied the best score in the history of the academy, demonstrating his exceptional talent. Ha ha ha, good, good, good. Old Zhao shouted loudly, saying good 3 times in a row. The eyes of the 3 bigwigs, Dean Qi, Wang Kongjin, and Ba Huqiu Tiankai, were also filled with joy, and their gazes towards Xiao Lingyun became fervent. This kid is destined to become the most outstanding genius of the Lingyun sword sect in the future, and this genius is from their own academy, from their own school district. He was discovered and selected by them. This glory will be forever recorded in the history of their academy. At this moment, Xiao Lingyun completely became a highly sought-after prize in the eyes of the 4 big shots. He became their most precious treasure. What's going on? Isn't that Dean Qi? And the headmaster, the head instructor, all those high-ranking figures are here. Soon, someone noticed the unusual situation in Group 19. What happened? I heard their group produced a super genius who scored a perfect score on the strength test. No, a score of over 1200, said a well-informed student. You're just bragging. Over 1,200 Jin of strength. Many level 7 martial artists don't even have that level. Our group's Wang Yi, isn't he amazing? He's almost universally recognized as one of the top 10 contenders in this competition, but he only managed 867 Jin. A fellow student immediately retorted dismissively. Brother, don't be so skeptical. Wang Yi is at best an average genius who barely meets the standard of a genius. But that one is hailed as the #1 super genius in our Lingyun Academy for hundreds of years. Do you think he would attract the head instructor, the headmaster, or even the dean if he didn't unleash more than 1,000 units of power? Really? If that's true, that's amazing. Lu Mingquan from our group is also a top 10 contender, and he only managed 881 Jin. A force approaching 900 Jin, 400 kilograms, is the mark of a true expert. Our group's first place finisher just broke 800 Jin, 400 kilograms, with a score of 802. The news spread quickly. What? Someone scored over 1,200 in the strength test? Are you sure it wasn't someone from the high-level section, but someone from our mid-level section? Lu Mingquan was dumbfounded. Over 1,200 force? Did you find out who it was? Zhao Mingjian's face was also gloomy. He had originally scored 913, a score that would have been the absolute #1 in the previous 10 years. Before the excitement in his heart had completely subsided, he heard this news that made his heart sink to the bottom of the sea. Over 1,200 Jin of strength. Interesting. I hope you're not just a giant meat shield. A faint smile appeared on Ye Feng's lips, and his fighting spirit began to rise. Round 1, third test, practical skills test. Students face off against beast core mechanical puppets. All the students are facing the same type of beast core mechanical puppets, their outer shells made of top-grade refined iron. Their strength is equivalent to a level 9 martial artist. The criterion for judging performance is the length of time a player can withstand the black iron golem's attacks. The longer they can withstand the attacks, the better their performance. The maximum duration is 100 breaths. Throughout the history of the villa, all the geniuses who were able to sustain themselves for a full 100 breaths successfully opened their meridians and became martial artists. Many of them have now grown into spiritual masters or even higher realms. If the first two items test an individual's qualities and talents, then this one truly tests an individual's combat strength and practical ability. For the most fundamental and primary force in the Xianling realm, spiritual cultivator's true combat strength, especially the power of actual combat ability, is of paramount importance. Xiao Lingyun soon witnessed the ferocity of this refined iron mechanical puppet. With just one punch, the first student was sent flying. They fell directly out of the testing area, within 2 breaths. The area where the battle with the refined iron mechanical puppet was 20 meters long and 20 meters wide, seemingly 400 square meters. However, the refined iron mechanical puppet was 3 meters tall with an astonishing 3.2 meter arm span. In addition, its movement speed was amazing, and it could cross a distance of 15 or 16 meters in just 2 strides. Under the tireless and painless attacks of the mechanical puppets, one trainee after another was blasted out of the testing area, wincing in pain. Before Xiao Lingyun appeared, the best result was that they lasted for 56 breaths. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Lingyun's lips. Having only watched 2 performances, he already had a clear understanding of this refined iron mechanical puppet. Even the most powerful puppet is still a puppet, controlled by mechanisms. While it may rival a level 9 martial artist in strength, its agility and certain movements differ fundamentally from those of a martial artist of equal strength. Although these differences are subtle and not easily discernible to the average person, Xiao Lingyun's insight is exceptional. He saw the problem in just one match, and the second match was merely a further verification. In fact, as long as these techniques are used properly, even a slightly agile level 4 martial artist can sustain this for 100 breaths. Of course, Xiao Lingyun did not want to resort to such a shortcut. The 4 big shots in the villa were still waiting to watch his amazing performance. Simply passing the test by trickery was obviously not enough to shock the 4 big shots. He not only had to pass this test, but he had to pass it spectacularly. Moreover, in his heart, Xiao Lingyun also wanted to use this mechanical puppet, which was comparable to a level 9 martial artist, to test the true combat power of his current body. This guy really stole the show in the first 2 rounds, but I wonder how good he is in actual combat? When Xiao Lingyun appeared, all the students in Group 19, including several seriously injured students, widened their eyes. Some of these students genuinely hoped to see Xiao Lingyun break records again, while others wanted to see him make a fool of himself. Aren't you a super genius? If you only last 50 or 60 breaths before being knocked out of the arena by the refined iron mechanical puppet, that would be hilarious. Lingyun, keep going. I have faith in you. Old Zhao is absolutely confident that Xiao Lingyun can hold on for 100 breaths. The other 3 bigwigs also have high hopes for Xiao Lingyun. If this challenge can also bring them a surprise, then it will be perfect. He glanced once more at the iron mechanical puppet standing in the center of the arena, then lightly lifted his right foot and stepped into the testing area. As soon as Xiao Lingyun entered the testing area, the eyes of the previously silent iron mechanical puppet suddenly lit up with 2 red lights. The next moment, it stomped its feet on the hard ground, and a huge body rushed forward. Facing the rapidly approaching iron mechanical puppet, Xiao Lingyun advanced instead of retreating. With a two-step running start, a slender figure leaped high into the air like a tiger unleashed from its cage, meeting the massive fist of the charging iron mechanical puppet head-on with a powerful punch. Thump. The deep sound made the hearts of the students watching around the arena jump. Two fists, one big and one small, collided without any fancy moves. Xiao Lingyun's figure floated back 3 meters and landed, while the charging iron mechanical puppet also swayed and landed suddenly. To actually stop the charging iron mechanical puppet with a single punch that takes immense power. The trainees all gaped in astonishment, then realized that this guy couldn't be judged by ordinary standards. The first test had shown him to be a monster who could unleash a force of 1,269 jin. The next moment, the man and the puppet, who had just landed, collided again. After the first punch landed squarely, Xiao Lingyun knew that his strength was still inferior to his opponent's, so he pressed forward again, slightly changing his tactics. He charged in and launched a close-quarters attack, his fists moving like thunder, one punch after another, relentlessly slashing at the two thick upper arms of the tall, finely crafted iron puppet. The continuous, heavy impacts echoed like muffled thunder throughout the entire training ground. With its arms constantly being attacked at close range by its opponent, the iron mechanical puppet's advantage of height and long reach instantly turned into a disadvantage, rendering it unable to unleash its powerful strength. Its massive body was actually forced back repeatedly by Xiao Lingyun's relentless attacks. A deep, angry roar came from the giant mouth of the iron mechanical puppet. The beast core inside its body suddenly accelerated, and its arms suddenly clamped down in front of it, trying to deliver a double peak blow to Xiao Lingyun's ears. If this hit him, given the strength of Xiao Lingyun's current body, he would probably be seriously injured even if he didn't die, and would be unable to fight again. His body suddenly slumped. Dodging the opponent's double-armed hammer blows, Xiao Lingyun's right fist slammed into the waist and hip of the refined iron mechanical puppet in the next moment. It was precisely the thunderous roar of the thunderbolt cone fist. This powerful punch immediately sent the tall iron puppet staggering back 3 steps. Xiao Lingyun moved with lightning speed, taking a step forward and changing his fists into palms. He crossed his palms and shook them together. In the next instant, his palms and arms struck the right thigh of the iron mechanical puppet like 2 heavy hammers. Thunderbolt fist second form, double thunder hammers? The iron mechanical puppet, still unsteady on its feet, stumbled backward once more. After the hammer blow, Xiao Lingyun shifted his feet, unleashing his spirit illusion step. With a swift movement, he dodged the attack from the right hand of the staggering, retreating iron mechanical puppet. His right foot stumped and spun on the ground, his body gracefully rotating, and his left foot, which had been spinning, delivered a straight kick to the iron mechanical puppet's abdomen. The staggering iron puppet could no longer maintain its balance, staggered back 2 steps, and collapsed to the ground with a thud, like a mountain collapsing and a jade pillar crumbling. Everyone was dumbfounded as the iron mechanical puppet crashed to the ground, kicking up clouds of dust. Unbelievable! A student actually managed to overturn the test's refined iron mechanical puppet? This can't be real, right? This must be my eyes playing tricks on me. This kid is a prodigy? Where did he learn that kick? It was really cool. Old Zhao couldn't help but like Xiao Lingyun more and more. In the first round, Xiao Lingyun achieved an impeccable, no, it should be said that he won first place in the 19th group with an amazing result that surprised all the big shots. His amazing performance repeatedly shocked the 4 bigwigs, constantly refreshing their impressions of genius. There were 74 groups. Only 40 groups were tested on the first day, and the remaining 34 groups will be tested on the second day. The second round of the competition will begin on the third day. Night falls. The dean's residence, however, was brightly lit. Qi Tingtian, Zhao Wenzhuo, Wang Kongjin, and Qiu Tiankai, the 4 big shots, were all present. In front of them, a light and sound screen that could transmit images and sound over long distances was activated. On the screen, a tall, elderly man was stroking his sparse goatee as he listened to Qi Tingtian's report. With all 3 attributes so outstanding, is he truly a 5th-level martial artist? Yes, Uncle Master. Dean Qi was overjoyed. Who would have thought that the elder on duty today would be his very close Uncle Master? Haha, this is truly heaven's help? Yes, I will inform my senior master about this. Is that little guy's next round of the competition the day after tomorrow? Yes, Uncle Master. Alright, an elder from the sect should be coming then. If they are truly as outstanding as you foresay, they will undoubtedly benefit from your guidance and recommendations after they enter the section. Thank you, Uncle Master. Even Dean Qi was moved to tears by the old man's words and immediately expressed his gratitude. 3 record-breaking achievements dazzled countless people, and on the very first day of the competition, Xiao Lingyun's name resounded throughout the entire southern school district. What? You're saying that super genius who broke 3 records at the academy is Xiao Lingyun? That second or third-rate good-for-nothing Xiao Lingyun? Are you sure? Zhao Mingjian's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, then he roared in exasperation, Zhao Sandy, you get over here. Breaking 2 records and equaling a historical best result, how did this guy do it? A second or third-rate loser suddenly becomes a super genius. This just doesn't seem right. Zhang Yun, hailed as one of the mid-level geniuses in the southern school district, frowned deeply. Although his tests are all tomorrow, putting aside speed, he's certain he can't break 1000 in strength and combat ability, and he absolutely cannot defeat the iron mechanical puppet. In fact, throughout history, there has never been a single instance of someone defeating the iron mechanical puppet in the tests for intermediate-level trainees. But just as this year's competition began, a dark horse suddenly emerged, who now appears to be the most powerful and talented genius among geniuses since the establishment of the academy, Xiao Lingyun. They originally thought their opponents were Zhao Mingjian, Wang Yi, Lu Mingquan, and Ye Feng. Now it seems that the championship has quietly shifted, not to them, but to this dark horse that has suddenly appeared. They might end up fighting for second and third place. After learning about Xiao Lingyun's amazing achievements, apart from Shuejian Ye Feng, whose fighting spirit soared, the remaining top students among the middle-level trainees all felt as if a weight had been placed on their hearts. Wan was overjoyed. Counting the days, she had only been a 7th-level martial artist for less than half a month, yet her performance in the first round of the high-level student competition was worthy of the title of genius. She had outperformed dozens of 8th-level martial artists and 2 9th-level martial artists, advancing to the second round with the 4th highest overall score in her group. Oh, isn't this Miss Wan, the pampered young lady who dumped her betrothed since childhood? Rumor has it that Miss Wan ranked 4th in her group in the advanced student test. Tisk, that's quite impressive. It's a pity, though, that her judgment is terrible. She treated our academy's once-in-a millennium super genius as a piece of trash, and even came to our door to force him to break off the engagement. I used to not understand what blind as a fool meant, but today I finally understand. 3 girls dressed in advanced student uniforms walked over, the one in the middle wearing a mocking expression. Wan, her face cold, ignored him and quickly left. Half an hour later, having found out what had happened, Wan returned to her room and angrily smashed the 2 vases on the table to the ground. Her pretty face was contorted with rage. You, surname Xiao, you're ruthless? Before the engagement was called off, you acted so cowardly and spineless. But now that it's broken off, you've instantly become a rising star, a once-in-a-millennium genius? What are you up to? Are you deliberately trying to embarrass me? Wan. Brother Jian, spare us. Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming were both deathly pale. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Choose for yourselves, go to the back mountain to feed the bloodthirsty wolves, or you 2 idiots drop out of school. Choose one. Zhao Mingjian's voice was icy. Drop out of school, Brother Jian, we're dropping out. We're dropping out tomorrow. Seeing that things were hopeless, and to save their lives, the 2 had no choice but to choose the latter. Get out. Zhao Mingjian shouted coldly. The 2 scrambled away as fast as they could. Bang. Zhao Mingjian smashed the table next to him with his fist, his anger still blazing. Niu Shan, you actually crippled Niu Shan. You surnamed Xiao, I'll avenge Niu Shan. 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Pagoda? This is the testing ground for all the students in the entire courtyard who have advanced to the second round. The 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Pagoda has 9 stories, each 5 zhong high, for a total height of 45 zhong, making it the tallest building in the Spirit Cloud courtyard. The 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower is only open during the annual grand tournament of the villa. It has 3 entrances, east, west, and south. The east entrance is located on the first floor and is for students with cultivation levels of 1 to 3 who are at the lower level. The west entrance is located on the third floor and is for students with cultivation levels of 4 to 6 who are at the middle level. The south entrance is located on the 5th floor and is for students with cultivation levels of 7 to 9 who are at the higher level. Each level of the tower is a circular passageway. The first level is 2 kilometers long, and the length increases by 2 kilometers with each subsequent level. The tests in the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower are all synchronized. After entering, each member will enter a completely independent illusion space. Only by defeating all the monsters in the passage can they enter the secret chamber at the end of the passage to rest and cultivate, and then enter the next level of the test within the specified time after adjusting their condition to the best. The monsters in the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower are all illusions, numbering between 10 and 90, with 10 more appearing on each subsequent floor. Their cultivation levels correspond to martial arts levels 1 through 9. Of course, the maximum number of illusions of this level will not exceed 3. That is to say, among the 90 illusionary monsters on the 9th floor, at most only 3 are martial arts level 9, and the rest are all below level 9, between levels 6 and 8. The difference in strength between the lowest and highest monsters on the same floor is at most 3 levels. The best achievement in history is clearing all 6 levels. It was created 200 years ago by a genius who was not even 11 years old, who cleared all 6 levels with the peak cultivation of a low-level 3rd-grade martial artist. The levels of the illusionary monsters in the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower are basically fixed, but their strength varies considerably, and this difference will vary depending on the age of the opponent. For every year the test participants' ages differ, the monsters become significantly stronger. The older the participants, the stronger the monsters they face. Taking the 5th level as an example, if the youngest student taking the test is 13 and the oldest is 15, then the strongest monster a 13-year-old student faces is basically at the level of a beginner level 5 martial artist, 14 is at the level of a mid-level 5 martial artist, and 15 is at the level of a high-level 5 martial artist. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, with a command from Dean Qi, thousands of students from the 5 academic districts participating in the second round of testing swarmed into the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower from 3 entrances like locusts. A flash of light. Xiao Lingyun, who had landed at the entrance to the third floor of the tower, looked around the long passageway with great interest. Just by standing at the entrance, he could smell a faint medicinal fragrance in the air. The ratio of time inside the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower to time outside is 2:1. 2 hours inside the tower equals only 1 hour outside. Most importantly, the tower is filled with spiritual energy from medicinal herbs that is beneficial to martial artists. The higher the tower level, the stronger the medicinal energy, and the better the effect on improving a martial artist's physique. One day inside the tower, from the 1st to the 9th floor, is equivalent to 4 to 20 days of arduous training outside. This is a special reward from the Academy for all students who are able to enter the second round of testing. Taking a deep breath, wisps of spiritual herbal energy in the air transformed into strands of energy that seeped into his body. He closed his eyes and carefully experienced the sensation for several breaths. When he opened his eyes, a look of joy appeared on his face. With his divine level cultivation technique, if he cultivated in this tower, even the third level alone would achieve 15 times the effect of the outside world. The higher he went, the more significant the effect became. This is a golden opportunity for cultivation, we can't let it slip by. In high spirits, Xiao Lingyun strode forward. After walking 50 meters, he saw a grey shadow quickly transform into a thick-skinned wild boar 10 meters ahead. A wild boar? The first monster to appear on the third level is actually a wild boar. Xiao Lingyun could tell at a glance that this wild boar's cultivation level was only that of an extremely ordinary level 2 martial artist. The illusionary monsters on the third level are at most at the cultivation level of a level 3 martial artist. For Xiao Lingyun, let alone 1, even 10, or 8 wouldn't pose any threat. He strode forward, and the Xiantai heavy sword drew an arc in the air, striking the wild boar's head with a crack. Ouch! A realistic howl of pain rang out, and the next moment, the wild boar collapsed to the ground with a thud, turning into a streak of light and disappearing. Next, Xiao Lingyun strolled along, and whenever he encountered a monster, he would either throw a punch with his left fist, causing the monster to explode and scatter, or slash with his right sword, causing the monster to fall to the ground and disappear. In just half an incense stick's time, Xiao Lingyun had already killed all 30 monsters on the third floor. Upon arriving at the secret chamber at the end of the third floor's passageway, the concentration of medicinal fragrance in the chamber was noticeably higher than in the passageway. The Chaosu Shen Ling Ju was activated. The medicinal essence filling the secret chamber, like countless moths drawn to light in the darkness, surged into Xiao Lingyun's body with overwhelming force. His depleted physical strength and internal energy recovered at a speed that left other martial artists speechless. Strands of medicinal essence seeped into his muscles and bones, nourishing his tendons, strengthening his bones, and invigorating his blood and qi. The second round of testing lasts 3 days outside the tower and 6 days inside. However, in all previous years, the full 3 days have never been used. This isn't specifically for students' training, it's for selection, such as choosing the top 160 from the middle section of the Southern School District. Once only 160 people remain, the test is considered complete. This period might be as short as a day and a half, and at most 2.5 days. In previous competitions, this stage of the test has mostly lasted around 2 days. Xiao Lingyun had naturally planned his time inside the tower for 4 days well in advance. With his strength, he was absolutely certain he could clear floors 3, 4, 5, and 6, and he was also quite confident about floors 7 and 8. As for floor 9, it was really hard to say. There was no past experience to refer to. However, passing the 8th level will set a new record for mid-level students in the history of the academy. Although both students pass 6 levels, the record set by a mid-level student is undoubtedly more valuable than that set by a low-level student. According to the rules, each level can be stayed for a maximum of 12 hours, which is a full day. The higher the level, the better the cultivation effect and the higher the efficiency. The monsters on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors posed no threat whatsoever. Xiao Lingyun advanced with unstoppable momentum, and according to the original plan, he reached the 6th floor in just 6 hours. Look, the 6th floor? A mid-level student has actually entered the 6th floor, someone exclaimed outside the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. Everyone quickly looked towards the 6th floor, where a yellow dot stood out among the many red dots. After entering the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, students at all 3 levels high, medium, and low are presented with distinct differences in the colors of the light spots red, yellow, and blue. Damn, who's this amazing person? How long has it been, and they've already reached the 6th floor? A student exclaimed outside the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. Good lad, so fast. Dean Qi and Zhao Wenzuo guessed it was Xiao Lingyun almost immediately. How long has it been, and he's already reached the 6th level? Could it be that he's aiming for the 9th level? The 2 big shots were both shocked. If that's true, this will set a new record for the academy. Wang Chong'an and Qiu Tiankai still had some doubts about whether the point of light was indeed Xiao Lingyun, while the others had even more varied choices in mind, considering almost every genius they could think of. On the 6th floor of the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, Xiao Lingyun's eyes lit up slightly. 3 monsters appeared in front of him all at once, 1 large and 2 small. Xiao Lingyun was very familiar with the larger one. It was the earth giant bear that had allowed him to transmigrate and be reborn, a demonic beast with strength equivalent to a level 6 martial artist. The two smaller ones were bloodthirsty silver wolves, with strength equivalent to a level 5 martial artist. This combination somewhat fueled Xiao Lingyun's fighting spirit. He gently twirled the heavy black iron sword in his hand and stepped forward. Awua! The bloodthirsty silver wolf slightly ahead on the right bared its teeth and howled defiantly at Xiao Lingyun. Seeing that the other party ignored it and continued to move forward, a fierce glint flashed in the bloodthirsty silver wolf's eyes. Whoosh! It pushed off the ground with its two hind legs, leaped into the air, and opened its mouth full of sharp teeth to bite down hard on Xiao Lingyun. Xiao Lingyun's gaze was calm, a relaxed smile appearing on his lips. He changed his footwork and turned his body to the side, dodging the opponent's foul-smelling mouth. The long sword in his right hand pierced the silver wolf's throat like lightning. With a ripping sound, as the silver wolf lunged forward, the sharp blade sliced through it like paper, from its throat down to its lower abdomen. Whoosh! Blood mixed with internal organs gushed out from the huge wound. Awua! With a miserable howl, the bloodthirsty silver wolf, half of its body ripped open, fell to the ground. The severe injuries prevented it from reforming and it vanished with a pop. Even a monster with the cultivation of a level 5 martial artist is still no match for Xiao Lingyun in a single blow. Awua! Roar! The remaining bloodthirsty silver wolf and the earth giant bear let out a howl in unison, and one swiftly charged forward with its massive body. Even the simplified and weakened version of the spirit illusion step is still 2 levels higher than the high-grade footwork of ordinary martial arts in the martial arts pavilion of the secluded courtyard. With a single movement, Xiao Lingyun's body swayed like a willow in the wind, easily dodging the bloodthirsty silver wolf's bite. With a punch from his left hand, he sent the bloodthirsty silver wolf flying, crashing heavily into the tunnel wall with a thud, sliding to the ground like a puddle of mud, unable to get up for a long time. The giant bear had already charged close, its thick paws raised high, like a huge iron hammer, crashing down heavily on Xiao Lingyun's head. This giant earth bear weighs over 2,000 pounds, and with the momentum of its charge, the force of its slap is far beyond that of a level 6 martial artist. It's absolutely comparable to that of an level 8 martial artist. Give it a try. Xiao Lingyun switched his sword to his left hand, shrank his body downwards and then suddenly stretched out his right fist, delivering a powerful punch to meet the giant bear paw. Bang! The dull thud of fists clashing echoed through the passageway. With a series of thuds, Xiao Lingyun staggered back 3 steps, while the giant earth bear, with its imposing body swaying, also staggered back 2 steps on its 2 thick hind legs, as if standing upright. On the surface, it appeared that Xiao Lingyun took a step back, but he charged at his opponent from the same spot, so strictly speaking, it should be considered a draw, with neither side having any strength. Haha, Xiao Lingyun grinned. Although the earth giant bear is judged to be a level 6 martial artist in terms of strength, its power far surpasses that of an average level 6 martial artist, and it is generally recognized to be at the level of an average level 8 martial artist. With this calculation, Xiao Lingyun realized that his strength was at the level of an 8th level martial artist. Let's use you as a warm-up. With a flick of his left hand, the heavy iron sword in his hand flew out like lightning, piercing into the body of the bloodthirsty silver wolf that was struggling to get up. With a pop, the bloodthirsty silver wolf died and disappeared. With a shift in his steps and a sway in his body, he appeared in front of the giant earth bear and unleashed a barrage of iron fists upon its body. Half a minute later, Xiao Lingyun, who had just leaped into the air, slammed his fist heavily into the massive head of the teetering giant earth bear. With a loud bang, the massive body of the earth bear crashed to the ground. Its mouth and nose were filled with gurgling blood. Why hasn't it dissipated yet? Xiao Lingyun moved swiftly, darted to the side, picked up the Xiantai heavy sword, and the next moment, the tip of the sword in his hand pierced heavily into the heart of the earth giant bear. With a pop, the massive body of the earth bear finally disintegrated. Awesome! The feeling of crippling a giant earth bear with my bare hands is truly exhilarating and wonderful. Half an hour later, Xiao Lingyun arrived at the secret chamber at the end of the 6th floor with a refreshed expression. He began to meditate and cultivate. As soon as he sat cross-legged and entered a meditative state, his smile deepened. Haha, the concentration of spiritual herbs here is much higher than on the 5th floor. I can cultivate here properly for 10 hours. Time flies like water, in the blink of an eye, 8 hours have passed. Xiao Lingyun, who was sitting cross-legged, shuddered. He opened his tightly closed eyes, a hint of joy flashing in them. Haha, the cultivation here is more than 20 times faster than outside. His inner energy has increased by a whole size. If he can stay here for 4 days, he'll definitely advance to the 6th level of martial artist. At the entrance to the 7th floor, Xiao Lingyun let out a soft breath. From this floor onwards, he would truly face his challenge. 3 opponents with the cultivation level of 7th level martial artists awaited him on this floor. Level 7 is the starting point for advanced martial artists, and it is completely different from the middle and lower levels. For a martial artist, the leap from level 6 to level 7 is almost a qualitative leap. The 7th floor will be the first whetstone to test Xiao Lingyun's true combat strength. Awua! A bloodthirsty silver wolf bared its teeth and charged forward. This bloodthirsty silver wolf was 2 meters tall and weighed over 300 kilograms. It was extremely fast. If it were any other 5th level or even 6th level martial artist facing this ferocious pounce of the beast, they would 100% dodge it immediately and then look for an opportunity to launch a counterattack. But Xiao Lingyun showed no intention of dodging. He clenched his left hand tightly, making cracking sounds from each knuckle. A powerful force surged from his clenched fist at an astonishing speed. Die! With a furious shout, he stepped forward and threw a punch, his left fist striking out like lightning. Xiao Lingyun's left fist shot out like lightning. The sound of thunder echoed faintly throughout the passage after this punch. Thunderclap. This move has been improved once again. A force exceeding 1,300 jin suddenly erupted, and bang! This punch struck the bloodthirsty silver wolf's head squarely, and a crisp sound of skull shattering rang out. This ferocious beast, weighing over 300 jin, was sent flying backward by Xiao Lingyun's punch, crashing into the tunnel wall and disappearing into a streak of light. With a single punch, Xiao Lingyun killed a demonic beast whose strength was equivalent to a level 5 martial artist. His fighting spirit soared, and he activated the spirit illusion step, transforming into a humanoid tyrannosaurus and charging into the horde of phantom beasts. His fists were like shooting stars, his feet like heavy hammers, and his right hand wielded the Xiantai heavy sword like a deadly executioner. When it struck, a phantom beast would vanish in a streak of light. In an instant, Xiao Lingyun was like a tiger among sheep, unstoppable. The phantom beasts in the Nine Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower are incredibly lifelike, with blood and severed limbs clearly visible. In the long passageway, splashes of blood gushed out, and the sounds of bones breaking were deafening. The dying screams of the phantom beasts echoed far and wide through the deep passageway. Brush! A beam of light rapidly materialized ahead. After Xiao Lingyun's longsword annihilated a wolf-like demon beast, a silver-clad warrior wielding a thick-backed longsword appeared. This was the first time such a completely humanoid illusion had appeared. Moreover, Xiao Lingyun immediately judged from the powerful aura of the other party that this illusory martial artist was the highest level illusion in this layer of cultivation, a powerful enemy with the strength of a 7th level martial artist, a level 7 martial artist's opponent, and a humanoid one at that. Excellent! In the heat of battle, Xiao Lingyun's gaze swept over the silver-clad warrior, and his eyes blazed with fighting spirit. A person and an illusion rapidly converge. Buzz! A chilling sound of a blade trembling echoed through the passageway. The tall martial artist in a silver-white robe had already transformed his long sword into a streak of light, slashing towards Xiao Lingyun's left waist from a rather tricky angle. This strike was not only fast but also incredibly powerful. If it landed, even if Xiao Lingyun activated his partially mastered bronze hammer body, he would have a hard time escaping being cut in half. The blade was fast and the angle was tricky. Even though Xiao Lingyun saw it and realized it, his body couldn't make that kind of rapid dodge movement. Excellent swordsmanship. Since I can't completely dodge, then I won't dodge. Xiao Lingyun's eyes turned cold. With his left hand outstretched, he struck down at the long sword at an equally mysterious angle. The left palm vibrated rapidly 3 times the instant it touched the blade of the long sword. It is precisely the triple wave of falling flowers move from the newly created falling flower palm, which is derived from and integrated with the stacked wave fist. The force surged like waves, one after another. Almost the instant the palm and the blade made contact, 3 consecutive waves of energy were transmitted to the blade, causing it to tremble strangely. The fierce force that the silver-clad warrior poured into the blade was instantly dissipated by Xiao Lingyun's 3 consecutive surges of power. The smile on the silver-clad warrior's face froze abruptly before it could spread. He felt a numbness in his hand, and a strange shock came from the blade, almost causing him to lose his grip on it. In the midst of his astonishment, a sword light suddenly burst forth before his eyes. The silver-clad warrior was, after all, a 7th level martial artist with considerable combat experience. Faced with this terrifying sword light, he was shocked but not flustered. He quickly pushed off the ground with his right foot, and his tall body retreated rapidly. With a swoosh sound, even though he retreated extremely quickly, the tip of the sword still managed to leave a shallow wound of about 2 inches on his chest. Xiao Lingyun did not immediately pursue and kill him. Almost all the divine skills and some top-level spiritual skills are still deeply etched in my memory. As long as my cultivation level is high enough, I can use them at any time. On the contrary, the combat skills of low-level martial artists and low-level spiritual cultivators have been forgotten because they are too distant from the past. Or even if I have a little impression of them, they are extremely vague and unfamiliar. Now that we've encountered this illusion that perfectly replicates a level 7 martial artist, a free sparring partner delivered right to our doorstep, when is a better time than to make the most of it? The tower offers a secluded space, free from prying eyes, making it an excellent opportunity to hone his various martial arts skills and swordsmanship. Xiao Lingyun gently shook the heavy black iron sword in his hand, then extended his left hand and beckoned to the pale-faced silver-robed warrior, signaling him to bring out any powerful moves he had. The illusion within the tower was remarkably lifelike. Upon seeing Xiao Lingyun's gesture, the silver-clad warrior opposite him displayed a genuine rage on his face. In the next instant, the silver-clad warrior's aura surged at an astonishing speed, and powerful energy poured into the longsword in his hand, causing it to emit a slight hum. Kill! He roared, raising his longsword high above his head, leaping forward, and bringing it down in a fierce slash. Before the longsword had even fully fallen, the air in the passageway seemed to have been cleaved in two by the blade, and the fierce wind had already made the walls on both sides of the passageway bang loudly. This silver-clad warrior's swordsmanship is considered top-notch among ordinary martial arts. Xiao Lingyun's eyes lit up with excitement at the sight of his prey. With a swift movement, the heavy black iron sword in his hand shot out, thrusting out into an inconspicuous opening in the opponent's falling longsword. This strike was simple and decisive, its speed carrying a sense of reckless abandon and a willingness to break through everything. It is the second move of the 4 basic sword techniques, one sword flying swallow, a sword move that pursues speed and forceful charge. Although the silver-clad warrior's longsword was fast, it was still slightly slower than one sword flying swallow. With a whoosh sound, the sword light, though arriving later, struck first, piercing the silver-clad warrior's chest. With the sword piercing his chest, his inner energy suddenly dissipated. The silver-clad warrior barely managed to maintain his downward slash as his longsword followed, striking Xiao Lingyun's shoulder. Almost the instant the longsword fell, a bronze halo shone on Xiao Lingyun's skin. Even though the opponent's strike was less than 30% of its original force, Xiao Lingyun still activated the bronze hammer body immediately, just to be on the safe side. Puff! The blade sliced through Xiao Lingyun's shoulder as if cutting through a layer of tough cowhide, merely tearing through his inner and outer clothing and leaving a 2-inch-long red mark on his shoulder. Pop! In the next instant, the silver-clad warrior's body exploded, turning into countless streams of light and dissipating. Sigh, once you enter combat mode, you instinctively attack the opponent's weak points? As Xiao Lingyun watched the other's figure disappear, he couldn't help but chuckle. It was one thing that he had seen through the flaw in the other's sword technique, but on the other hand, the cultivation level of this silver-robed martial artist illusion was indeed a bit lacking. He immediately understood why the silver-robed warrior illusion was weaker. Age? His current body's true age is 14 years and 2 months, while Zhao Mingjian, Wang Yi, and the others are all 16 years old, and even Bloodsword Ye Feng is over 15 years old. In terms of age, he is 1 or 2 years younger than the iconic geniuses of the Southern School District. According to the rules of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, this level 7 martial artist is probably only at the level of just entering level 7, not at the level of high level or even peak level 7 martial artists that Zhao Mingjian and the others will encounter. This illusion of someone who has just entered the 7th level of martial arts is too weak. It seems the real pressure won't start until the 8th floor. Xiao Lingyun's eyes lit up again as he strode forward. The heavy iron sword in his hand repeatedly pierced and slashed down the enemies who stood in his way, cleared the 7th floor in an hour and a half. After resting until the very last moment, Xiao Lingyun proudly stepped into the 8th floor first. As time went on, more and more trainees participating in the test were ejected from the tower. More than a dozen of them emerged unconscious. Although the illusionary killing formation in the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower will not actually kill the students, the injuries they suffer inside are real. However, the illusionary killing formation has a protective mechanism. If a student is seriously injured or the formation determines that they cannot proceed or are unable to fight back, they will be teleported out immediately. Therefore, in all previous competitions, there has never been a single student who died during the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower segment. As long as one doesn't die, even with severe injuries like losing an arm or a leg, the spiritual cultivators or even powerful spiritual masters from the other academy can heal and restore one. Of course, the cost is considerable. Even if one doesn't have that much money immediately, as long as an agreement is signed guaranteeing its return within the next few years, the academy's physicians will provide immediate treatment. In the rear passage of the 8th floor of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, Wan wielded her longsword, forcefully piercing through a phantom martial artist whose strength was equivalent to a level 7 martial artist. However, she could no longer avoid the attack of the Shadow Knight beside her, whose strength was equivalent to a level 8 martial artist. She felt a sharp pain in her abdomen as the opponent's iron spear pierced her lower abdomen. The next moment, a gentle yet irresistible force appeared. Whoosh, light and shadow flashed, and the next moment, when Wan came to her senses, she was already outside the tower. A first aid instructor immediately stepped forward to treat her injuries. At the same time, on the 7th floor of the tower, Wang Yi, his face covered in sweat and looking disheveled, stared at the imposing illusionist standing before him. Then, glancing at the 2 enormous earth bears beside him, he struggled with his decision, but ultimately decided to give up. As a boy from a not-so-wealthy family, he couldn't afford the exorbitant medical fees. Most importantly, even if he fought with his life on the line, he estimated he had less than a 50% chance of surviving the attack from this man and 2 beasts. Especially since these weren't even the last 3 illusions. If another combination like this appeared later, passing the 7th floor would ultimately be impossible. Based on past standards, reaching the middle to late part of the 6th level would guarantee a spot in the top 160. I've already reached the late part of the 7th level, so passing the 2nd round is a sure thing. If you suffer a serious injury at this point, it will be extremely detrimental to the even more brutal 3rd round of elimination, and the rewards for the top 10 and the top 160 are vastly different. Let's make sure we get into the top 10 in the 3rd round. With that decision in mind, Wang Yi gritted his teeth, crushed the jade talisman at his waist, and with a whoosh, a soft light enveloped him as he left the tower. After exiting the tower, Wang Yi was astonished to find that Lu Mingquan and Zhang Yunli had already exited the tower before him. Neither of them had any injuries and were looking relaxed as they gazed at the towering 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower ahead. It seemed that they had voluntarily withdrawn after undergoing a trial on the 7th floor. These guys are all aiming for the top 10. Wang Yi couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief at his wise choice. Look. Someone has made it to the 8th floor. It's the mid-level student in yellow who made it to the 8th floor. Just then, Wang Yi heard a shout. Seriously, look. Look. Who's that amazing person? The highest level of mid-level students is only the peak of level 6 martial artist, yet they've reached the 8th level? That's incredible combat power. As exclamations arose, everyone standing in front of the towering tower turned their gazes toward the yellow light on the 8th floor. Amidst hundreds of red dots, a single yellow dot stood out strikingly. Wang Yi, Lu Mingquan, Zhang Yunli, and the others stared wide-eyed at the yellow dot of light, their eyes filled with shock. Although they had all voluntarily withdrawn to focus on their later goals and hadn't truly fought to the death, after experiencing the strength of the black-clad illusionary warrior on the 7th level, these prodigies understood to some extent that even if they exerted their utmost effort and fought with all their might, their chances of passing the 7th level would definitely not exceed 50%. Who is this point of light? The answer is naturally not them, but rather one of those who haven't yet given up. Zhao Mingjian? That's unlikely. Zhao Mingjian is strong, but his strength compared to the rest of them is extremely limited. If it had been 4 or 5 hours later, it might have been possible, but to climb to the 8th level so quickly, Zhao Mingjian isn't that strong. So, the remaining one is Blood Sword, Ye Feng. Oh, and there's also that super genius who broke the Academy's record 3 times before, but wasn't that guy only a level 5 martial artist? Does he have the strength to reach the 8th level? Good lad. 8th floor? That's 6 floors in a row? If you clear the 8th floor, you'll set a new record for our Lingyun Academy. Zhao Wenzhuo's chubby face lit up with excitement. Dean Qi, standing beside him, also showed excitement, but a hint of anxiety and regret lingered on his face. What happened to my uncle? Why didn't he inform the sect? Why haven't any elders from the sect arrived by this time? Such a genius, surely the sect can't even send one elder, even an outer sect elder would be fine? Dean Qi was filled with anxiety. Just as he was thinking to himself, in the distant sky, a sword light ripped through the air like a dazzling shooting star, flying straight towards Lingyun courtyard. The sword light moved with incredible speed. What was just a glimmer of light in the distant sky a moment ago has transformed into a giant sword with a thunderous roar a few breaths later. Dean Qi, Zhao Wenzhuo, and other bigwigs from other colleges were the first to notice the strange phenomenon in the sky. Seeing the light in the distance rapidly expanding, a look of joy flashed in the eyes of Dean Qi, Old Zhao, Wang Kongjin, and Qiu Tiankai, while the bigwigs from other colleges showed expressions of astonishment. The giant sword flew towards Lingyun courtyard at an astonishing speed. In the next instant, a flash of light. The giant sword vanished, and 2 figures appeared before the group of powerful figures in the courtyard. The 2 men, slightly in front is a thin old man, and half a shoulder behind is a tall old man with a goatee on his chin. Grandmaster. Upon seeing the gaunt old man ahead, Zhao Wenzhuo's plump body trembled slightly. Why did he come in person? Uncle Master. Dean Qi looked at the tall, elderly man with the goatee, his eyes filled with delight. Haha, Uncle Master has come in person. That's wonderful. Qi Tingtian greets the elder. Qi Tingtian was the first to step forward, bowing respectfully. Wenzhou greets Grandmaster Uncle and Elder Feng. Zhao Wenzhou stepped forward and respectfully bowed to the gaunt old man, then clasped his hands in a salute to the tall old man. Grandmaster Uncle. Dean Qi was a little confused. His Grandmaster Uncle was an inner sect elder, and senior brother Zhao was calling this Grandmaster Uncle. This is one of the most revered elders in the sect. The tall, elderly man with the goatee glanced briefly at Qi Tingtian and Zhao Wenzhuo, ignoring the others. He turned slightly to the gaunt old man standing a shoulder's width in front of him and respectfully said, Uncle Master, look at the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Pagoda. The gaunt old man glanced at the towering tower with his seemingly lifeless eyes, nodded slightly, and said, a mid-level student. He's qualified to enter the 8th level, not bad. Then, without turning his head, he said, Wenzhou, go and bring that reclining chair from your pill pavilion. I want to see if this kid can pass the 9th level. Yes. Zhao Wenzhuo's chubby face instantly flushed red. He moved swiftly, disappearing from sight, and returned a few breaths later with an old-fashioned reclining chair in his hands. He respectfully placed it behind the old man. Grandmaster Uncle, the reclining chair has arrived. Yes, the old man said, lying down comfortably with his eyes slightly closed. Xingtian, you should sit down and take a good look too. Yes, Uncle Master, the tall, elderly man with the goatee said respectfully, waving his right hand lightly. An antique-style wooden stool appeared, and he sat down slightly against the back of the recliner. Everyone, please sit down and watch. If this kid reaches the 9th level, the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower will remain open for 3 full days, or it will close after he is defeated and automatically exits. Yes. Dean Qi replied respectfully. This is it. Unexpectedly, the sect attaches great importance to this event. The Supreme Elder is currently the highest-ranking elder in the sect, on par with the sect leader. There are only a handful of Supreme Elders in the entire sect. This level of respect is unprecedented not only since the establishment of Lingyun Academy, but also in all the academies established by the sect. There has never been a precedent of a Supreme Elder attending the student competition. Kid, you'd better do me a favor? If you can clear the 9th floor, you'll be my lucky star from now on. I'll grant you anything you want in the entire courtyard. After giving the order, Dean Chi stared intently at the yellow dot on the 8th floor with his bull-like eyes, his hands involuntarily clenching into fists as he silently cheered for the dot in his heart. Bang! Xiao Lingyun slammed his fist into the head and neck of the phantom beast. With a loud bang, the phantom beast, which weighed 300 or 400 pounds, suddenly stopped moving. The next moment, it burst into a shower of light and disappeared. Xiao Lingyun was covered in blood. Of course, this blood was from the phantom beasts he had killed. The phantom beasts disappeared, but the bloodstains on Xiao Lingyun did not disappear with them. Instead, they had a real, bloody smell. His slender body sprang into the air, and while still in midair, his right hand wielded the Xiantai heavy sword, which moved like a heavy broadsword, slashing forward with 3 fierce sword beams. The third move of the basic sword technique, Tiger Roar Triple Strike. Pft, pft, pft. The heads of the 3 phantom beasts, each with the strength of a level 5 martial artist, were all ripped open with wounds the size of bowls, and fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. The next moment, pop pop pop, the 3 phantom beasts all collapsed. The battles on the 8th floor of the Spirit Cloud Tower are far more intense than those on the 7th floor. Here, even the weakest phantom beasts are at least at the level of a 5th level martial artist. Previously, Xiao Lingyun had already killed 2 phantom martial artists whose strength was comparable to a high-level 7th level martial artist. These 2 phantom martial artists alone were several levels stronger than the strongest phantom on the 7th floor, and they haven't even encountered a single phantom beast with the strength of an 8th level martial artist yet. Whew! Xiao Lingyun let out a long breath after landing. The continuous killings left even a powerful man feeling physically exhausted, especially his stamina and internal energy, which were depleted by about 50%, and this is only 1/3 of the way up to the 8th floor. It seems I'll have to slow down a bit from here on out. The thought had barely formed in his mind when the passageway 15 meters ahead trembled, and in the next instant, a new phantom appeared. Upon seeing the still-forming phantom, Xiao Lingyun's heart skipped a beat. Doll? A humanoid illusion. This is definitely an illusion created by a 7th level martial artist. This test is really strict. It doesn't give the participants any chance to rest or recuperate. Since that's the case, let's strike first and eliminate you before you've fully formed your power. Having made his decision in an instant, Xiao Lingyun didn't even have time to catch his breath. He unleashed his spirit illusion step and pounced forward like a cheetah. The heavy iron sword in his hand swung rapidly. A flying sword. The fastest sword strike, the heavy sword thrust out through the air with a resolute and unstoppable momentum. Pfft. The illusion that had just appeared, whose strength was comparable to a high-level 7th grade martial artist, was directly pierced through by Xiao Lingyun's astonishing sword light. Pop. The unfortunate illusionist hadn't even had a chance to display his powerful strength before he vanished in a streak of light. Xiao Lingyun plopped down on the ground. He stood there to rest, refusing to believe that the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower could move all the phantom beasts and phantom warriors from behind to this side. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Haha, I knew it. Xiao Lingyun laughed with a hint of smugness. After a 5-minute break, not a single illusion appeared. It seems I can clear the 8th floor. Outside the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Pagoda, a faint smile appeared on the lips of the gaunt old man who had been feigning sleep with his eyes closed. This little fellow, he knows how to be opportunistic and cunning. Want a full reply? Dream on. Whether you're a martial artist or a spiritual practitioner, you can only truly unleash your potential when facing life or death situations. Xing Tian, go and see who's operating this low-level 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. He then transmitted his voice. Create some illusions of that kid with the cultivation levels of level 5 to 7 martial artists. Once you detect him sitting and meditating for more than 100 breaths, activate these extra illusions. Yes, the tall old man replied. In the next instant, a gentle breeze arose, and the man had vanished without a trace. Xiao Lingyun's smug laughter had barely echoed in the passageway when his gaze suddenly sharpened, and his smile vanished abruptly. Damn it, this guy shouldn't be so smug. I had barely begun to feel smug when a magical beast appeared. Xiao Lingyun let out a soft breath, stood up, and rushed towards the 3 rapidly converging phantoms in front of him. With a whoosh, 2 sword lights slashed down the 2 phantom beasts that had just taken shape. Then, he clenched his left fist, slightly turned his body, and threw a punch. Boom! The impact struck the enormous figure squarely. Roar! With a roar, the massive earth bear, now fully formed, jerked its enormous body backward, its powerful hind legs bracing against the tunnel floor, and its fan-like paws swung towards Xiao Lingyun's head. Xiao Lingyun no longer had the will to wrestle with this tough-skinned creature. This wasn't the 6th level. With a quick movement, he dodged the giant bear paw, and with 2 swift strokes of his right-hand sword, 2 streaks of blood appeared. Awoo! Awoo! The giant bear roared, waving its huge paws and turning its massive body to chase after Xiao Lingyun, who was as agile as a monkey. Unfortunately, the giant bear's movements were always a fraction of a second behind, and it could not hit Xiao Lingyun once. On the contrary, the heavy sword in Xiao Lingyun's hand kept leaving deeper and deeper wounds on the giant bear's body. In just a few breaths, the giant bear's massive body was already covered in wounds and bloodstains. With Xiao Lingyun's spirit illusion step combined with his sharp heavy sword, in just a few breaths, dozens of deep, bone-revealing scarlet wounds appeared on the giant earth bear's massive body. Buzz! Just as Xiao Lingyun was about to continue grinding down the giant bear, the space not far in front of him trembled violently, and a phantom that was taller than any illusion before condensed and appeared at an unprecedented speed. With a flick of his wrist, the heavy sword pierced deep into the earth bear's body. Pop! The wounded earth bear finally collapsed. Xiao Lingyun turned around, his gaze sweeping over the enormous illusion that had materialized before him, and his eyes narrowed slightly. The illusion, whose strength was equivalent to an 8th-level martial artist, had finally appeared. This was a tall knight clad in heavy black armor, wielding a long, iron spear, and riding a magnificent, jet-black horse with gleaming scales. Shadow Knight? Xiao Lingyun's eyes narrowed. This illusion is none other than the renowned royal Shadow Knight of the Twilight Cloud Empire. Heavy armor, long spears, and black-scaled horses? The Royal Shadow Knights of the Twilight Cloud Empire require recruits to have at least a level 7 martial artist cultivation. The black-scale horse, according to legend, is the descendant of the black-scale dragon and the horned horse. It is fast, can travel 1,000 miles a day, and has excellent load-bearing capacity and endurance. It is the most beloved mount of high-level martial artists and spiritual cultivators who cannot fly. Even an ordinary black-scale horse without activated black-scale flood dragon bloodline is no weaker than a giant earth bear. Once activated, a black-scale horse falls into the category of spirit beast. In the entire Xianu domain, no more than 1,000 black-scale horses have been able to activate their ancestral bloodline in the last 1,000 years. Even from 20 meters away, Xiao Lingyun could sense the imposing aura emanating from the Shadow Knight. Neither his presence nor his strength could be compared to that of a level 7 martial artist. Without a doubt, this is an illusionary martial artist representing the highest combat power of the 8th level, with strength equivalent to an 8th level martial artist. A knight with the strength of an 8th level martial artist, plus a magnificent mount with combat power comparable to a giant earth bear. This combination would make even true 8th level martial artist students tremble with fear. Clang, clang, clang. Under the control of the Shadow Knight, the black-scaled horse strode forward. With each step, the ground of the passageway seemed to tremble slightly, which alone showed how heavy the horse was carrying the knight's heavy armor. If it were someone else, under the pressure of the Shadow Knight's powerful aura, their own aura would be more or less overwhelmed and suppressed. But Xiao Lingyun was no ordinary person. Facing the Shadow Knight who was constantly building up his momentum with each step, his momentum was not diminished. Instead, a long-lost passion and fighting spirit erupted like a long-suppressed volcano. If the Shadow Knight appears on the 8th floor, what kind of monster will appear on the 9th floor? Shadow Knight, don't even think about stopping my advance. With his pure inner energy flowing freely, Xiao Lingyun charged fiercely at his most powerful enemy yet, like a cheetah pouncing on its prey. During the high-speed charge, every muscle group in the body spontaneously mobilizes, the blood in every blood vessel flows at an unprecedented speed as if receiving a command, and the internal energy circulates at an astonishing speed. Because of the rapid circulation of internal energy and the full activation of muscles, bones, and meridians, Xiao Lingyun's legs, hands, and even his entire body were expanding at a visible speed, and his right arm holding the sword became noticeably thicker. With a tearing sound, his already tattered clothes were ripped apart and flew off by his muscular body. Xiao Lingyun, transformed into a humanoid Tyrannosaurus Rex, charged out like a cannonball. Facing an opponent who was charging forward, the Shadow Knight spurred his black-scaled horse, which leaped into the air and soared into the sky. In the next instant, the 18-foot-long iron spear in the knight's hand transformed into a streak of light and violently stabbed out. Kill. Facing the spear that seemed to emerge from the sea like a dragon, Xiao Lingyun roared and leaped into the air. His pure and powerful inner energy was poured into the Xiantai heavy sword in his hand at an astonishing speed. With a series of swishes and the faint roar of a tiger, 3 sword lights slashed out with the force of splitting mountains. Sword Foundation 4 forms, 3rd form, Tiger Roar Triple Strike. Clang, clang, clang. 3 consecutive metallic clangs rang out. The 3 heavy swords, each heavier and faster than the last, struck the steel spear with astonishing speed. The first sword strike landed on the spear tip, immediately halting most of the Shadow Knight's momentum. The second sword followed closely, slashing diagonally at the rear of the spear tip, the triangular iron handle. The powerful force caused the Shadow Knight's right hand, gripping the spear, to vibrate, and the spear began to swing outwards. The third sword slashed horizontally 8 inches behind the spearhead. This strike was not only the most powerful but also carried a strange spiral. The Shadow Knight, whose hand was already vibrating, felt a tremendous force transmitted from the spear. His hand burned, and the spear almost slipped from his grasp. Startled, he quickly circulated his inner energy, his left hand swiftly reaching up to grab the swinging spear again. With 3 sword strikes, Xiao Lingyun's figure glided down from beside the Shadow Knight's tall black-scaled horse like a fluttering bat. The sword flashed, and with a whoosh sound, blood splattered. A horse's leg was severed by a single thrust of the sword. With its left foreleg completely severed, the massive black-scaled horse staggered forward and collapsed with a thud. With a clatter, the heavy armor clashed, and the Shadow Knight extended his left hand, pressing down as his towering figure leaped into the air. With a bang, the black-armored knight, who had just landed, didn't even have time to turn around before his spear was swiftly thrust backward. Several metallic clangs, like a barrage of firecrackers, resounded through the passageway. Xiao Lingyun's heavy sword moved like a whirlwind, slashing and hacking at the black-armored knights until they were forced to retreat repeatedly. With a crisp crack, the spear, riddled with numerous slits, finally snapped. An opening suddenly appeared. Xiao Lingyun's ability to seize opportunities was perfectly demonstrated at this moment. He darted forward, his heavy black iron sword transforming into a deadly meteor. With a whoosh sound, the Xiantai heavy sword pierced through the thick armor, entering the Shadow Knight's back and exiting through his chest. The Shadow Knight's tall frame suddenly stiffened, a look of astonishment flashing across his face hidden beneath his mask. He hadn't even had a chance to unleash his full power before being so humiliatingly killed by his opponent. He struggled to turn his head, his mouth slightly open as he glanced at Xiao Lingyun behind him. Before he could utter a sound, with a soft pop, his entire body disintegrated. Pfft! The heavy sword pierced the ground, and Xiao Lingyun felt his muscles tremble all over, letting out heavy breathing. In that short span of 10 breaths, he had unleashed almost all of his inner energy, finally managing to kill the Shadow Knight, who possessed the strength of an 8th-level martial artist. This battle may have seemed short, but the depletion of physical strength and internal energy was greater than in any previous battle. I need to rest and recuperate. He plopped down on the ground and immediately began to regulate his breathing. A moment later, wow, another mythical beast has been released so quickly. Xiao Lingyun was speechless for a moment, then stood up and killed him. Rest. A moment later, he got up and killed again. After 3 rounds, Xiao Lingyun figured out a pattern. As long as he sat down to rest for more than 100 breaths, a phantom beast would definitely appear. So it seems, wait, I've got it. After 3 phantom beasts with the cultivation levels of level 5 martial artists and 1 level 6 martial artist appeared again, Xiao Lingyun went to meet them. With 2 swift sword strikes, he killed the 2 phantom beasts with the cultivation levels of level 5 martial artists. Then, he used his spirit illusion step to play hide-and-seek with the remaining 2 phantom beasts. Hehe, let's give it a try and see if it works. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, hehe, this method works? This is awesome. I've honed my spirit illusion steps and restored my inner energy and stamina. After playing hide-and-seek with the 2 low-level phantom beasts for a full 10 minutes, Xiao Lingyun suddenly launched an attack and killed the 2 panting phantom beasts. Along the way, if he encounters a level 7 illusionary warrior, Xiao Lingyun will deal with it in the fastest and most violent way. If he encounters an illusionary beast with the cultivation of a level 5 or 6 warrior, he will play hide-and-seek to recover some physical strength and internal energy before killing it. 2 hours later, they had traversed 90% of the 8th level passageway, with only a little over 1,000 meters remaining. At this moment, Xiao Lingyun's physical strength and internal energy had recovered to 80%. With a satisfied expression, Xiao Lingyun casually killed the phantom beast that had been playing hide-and-seek for 7 or 8 minutes. His gaze then fell upon a relatively spacious passageway ahead, and his satisfied expression froze. Wow, this is a massive competition? Seriously, guys, is this some kind of brutal test? They were just 1 kilometer away from victory, and then they pulled this stunt? In the spacious passageway ahead, there were 6 illusions. If there were 6 phantom beasts, that would be simple. The key is that among these 6 phantoms, only 3 are phantom beasts, and the other 3 are humanoid phantoms. The key point is that 2 of these 3 humanoid illusions are shadow knights riding black-scaled horses. 2 shadow knights and 1 black-clad warrior. Just these 3 alone are enough to give Xiao Lingyun a run for his money, not to mention they brought 3 phantom beast minions with them. Oh no, we can't afford to fail at the last minute. Let's give it our all. Xiao Lingyun gritted his teeth. Right, let's rest first. Even recovering 0.5% would be good. Xiao Lingyun stopped in his tracks, no longer moving forward. But just because he doesn't move doesn't mean the other side won't move either. Clatter, clatter, clatter. With the crisp, heavy sound of hooves, a shadow knight set out, accompanied by the 3 phantom beasts. Upon seeing this, Xiao Lingyun was not surprised at all. Instead, his eyes lit up. Haha, my character is absolutely top-notch. There's only 1 shadow knight? This is amazing. We can take them down 1 by 1, ha ha ha. With a gleam in his eyes and a smile playing on his lips, Xiao Lingyun watched the shadow knight ride forward. Instead of moving forward, he quietly took a step back. Since we've decided to take them down 1 by 1, let's not lure the remaining 2 troublesome guys over. It's safer to keep the battlefield further away. Okay. The other 2 troublesome guys didn't move? Very good. Ha ha ha. Xiao Lingyun, who had quietly retreated, almost grinned from ear to ear. As Xiao Lingyun retreated, he cheerfully waved to the 3 ferocious beasts and the shadow knight who were closing in, with a bright smile on his face that said, "Come over here and have some fun." Layers of dark red true energy emanated from the shadow knight's spear, which had also turned a dark red. The temperature throughout the passageway seemed to rise several degrees. Xiao Lingyun's eyes sharpened as he dealt with the last phantom beast. This shadow knight was actually practicing the extremely powerful fire element technique from the 5 elements cultivation methods. As the fiery true energy was poured into the spear, the shadow knight made his move. The dark red spear transformed into a scarlet fire serpent, howling as it lunged towards Xiao Lingyun. Superb gun techniques of the martial arts, fire snake gun eater. Even from several meters away, you could feel the intense fire elemental aura emanating from this fire serpent. With a long spear, a tall mount, and a narrow passageway, it's extremely difficult to dodge the Shadow Knight's attacks using only a simplified and weakened version of the Spirit Step. There were still two troublesome guys behind, but the Shadow Knight in front of him had to be dealt with quickly. Having made up his mind, Xiao Lingyun's internal energy circulated rapidly, and the Xiantai heavy sword with many small slits on its blade transformed into a surging wave to meet the attack. What was originally a graceful palm technique, falling petals triple waves, was now unleashed by Xiao Lingyun using his sword. Boom! The fiery serpent formed from the crimson spear collided with the layers of sword waves, creating a deafening explosion that echoed through the passageway. Two figures, one large and one small, retreated to opposite sides, only to collide violently once more in the next instant. Sword flashes and spear gleams resounded with a deafening roar. Sizzle! The dark red spear blade, like a venomous snake, pierced through layers of sword waves, heading straight for Xiao Lingyun's forehead. Sizzle! Xiao Lingyun's forehead was pierced like a soap bubble. In the next instant, Xiao Lingyun's figure had already appeared to the left of the Shadow Knight, and the Xiantai heavy sword in his hand transformed into a streak of light and stabbed out. It turned out that Xiao Lingyun's ethereal steps miraculously evaded the opponent's thrust, but his speed was too fast, and the opponent's spear blade only pierced through the afterimage left behind. With two sharp, thudding sounds, two broken horse legs flew into the air. Xiao Lingyun continued to employ the strategy of killing the horse before the rider, first eliminating the opponent's mount and turning the Shadow Knight into a heavily armored, slow-moving foot warrior. Without the black scale horse, the Shadow Knight is like a phoenix fallen to the ground, no better than a chicken. His heavy armor also greatly restricts his footwork and movement. Facing Xiao Lingyun, who possessed the spirit illusion step, the scales of victory tipped dramatically in Xiao Lingyun's favor in the ensuing battle. With a crack, sound, a spray of blood spurted from the Shadow Knight's waist. Like a swift and unpredictable wind, Xiao Lingyun, like a tireless nimble cat, launched wave after wave of attacks around the Shadow Knight. Crack! Pft! Click! Pft! The heavy armor could not withstand the blows of the Xiantai heavy sword. Blood splattered as wound after wound appeared on the Shadow Knight's body. The Shadow Knight was incredibly frustrated. His opponent was like a slippery eel, his attacks couldn't hit him at all, and wearing such heavy armor made it impossible for him to dodge the attacks. He had become a walking target. The constant bleeding from the minor wounds accumulated into a fatal injury, and as he was dodging with all his might, he suddenly felt dizzy. Not good. The thought had barely crossed his mind when he felt a sharp pain in his neck, and a head flew off into the air. With two soft pops, the Shadow Knight, whose head and body had been severed by a single sword strike, vanished in a flash of light. Xiao Lingyun landed, her face slightly flushed. This Shadow Knight's actual combat power is slightly higher than the previous one, but, under my sword, they will still only be slaughtered. A sense of pride welled up inside me. Clop clop clop. The crisp sound of horses' hooves rang out clearly. With a quick glance, Xiao Lingyun's face darkened. Damn, he knew it wouldn't be this easy for me. The last two troublesome illusions had already approached. The Shadow Knight sat high on his black-scaled horse, wielding a 10-foot-long iron spear, while the silver-clad illusionist carried a 5-ringed broadsword. The two illusionists, one tall and one short, one large and one small, strode about 2 meters apart. Clop clop, the rhythmic sound of horses' hooves rang out. The aura of the Shadow Knight, seated high on his black-scaled horse, and the silver-clad warrior striding alongside him was also steadily rising. Not bad, not bad. They actually used the rhythm of the horse's hooves to build momentum. Sensing the ever-increasing power of his two formidable opponents, Xiao Lingyun's eyes flashed with excitement, and his fighting spirit surged rapidly. Could there be anything more exhilarating than facing two powerful enemies while half-exhausted? In his past life, he was a mighty god king of the divine realm. If he cannot even defeat these two opponents before him, how can he possibly claim to rule the Xianyu domain, ascend to the upper realm, and slay his sworn enemy in this life? Let you become the first cornerstone on my path to becoming the supreme powerhouse in this lifetime? Thinking of this, Xiao Lingyun's mind and fighting spirit underwent a new change. High and vast, proud, and awe-inspiring, exuding a kingly aura. At this moment, the momentum of the two illusory enemies 15 meters ahead had reached a peak, and they were about to attack. However, Xiao Lingyun's sudden change shocked them all. The seemingly exhausted opponent suddenly entered a mysterious state, a state of divine wandering that exuded immense power, far beyond the level of the opponent. Besides Xiao Lingyun's unexpected state of mind and energy, his physical actions also greatly alarmed the two illusory enemies. His left hand was hanging loosely, while his right hand held a mottled heavy sword loosely, the tip pointing towards the ground. But this seemingly relaxed and unguarded state was, in the eyes of the two illusionary warriors, extremely mysterious and skillful. With their rich combat experience, they were astonished to find that their previous preparations seemed to have no effect on their opponents. Their opponents' seemingly casual stance, which appeared to be full of flaws, made them realize that no matter where they attacked, their opponents could easily block their attacks. That seemingly flawless stance was actually the most solid and perfect defense without any weaknesses. This made them, who were poised to act, feel as if a huge rock had suddenly pressed down on their chests, making it difficult to breathe and causing them to feel suffocated and uncomfortable. Kill! A furious shout erupted from the Shadow Knight's mouth. With that shout, he exhaled a pent-up breath and spurred his black-scaled horse forward. Kill! The silver-clad warrior, awakened by the Shadow Knight's roar, also roared. His body shot out like an arrow, and as he sprinted along the ground, his five-ringed longsword drew a sharp line of light. He struck Xiao Lingyun first, even though he was behind. With 2 rapid hoofbeats, the massive body of the black scale horse leaped into the air. The Shadow Knight urged the black scale horse to cooperate with the silver-clad warrior's attack, and the 18-foot-long iron spear in his hand transformed into a black light, enveloping Xiao Lingyun's upper body in a sharp spear light. Xiao Lingyun's gaze sharpened slightly. Good heavens, a knight and a warrior, one on horseback and one on foot. Not only can they cooperate, but they cooperate so well in this situation. Not simple. With sword and spear strikes in succession, they formed a continuous offensive in front, with the sword as the main weapon and the spear as the secondary weapon. The long sword was the main weapon, while the spear's edge covered the surrounding area, directly forming an attack circle composed of sword and spear that covered a radius of 5 meters. This attack circle enveloped Xiao Lingyun's entire body. With only 30% of his physical strength and true energy remaining, and the opponent's skillful use of swords and spears, only a fool would choose to fight head-on. He should avoid their sharp edge and wait for an opportunity to strike. Xiao Lingyun made a decision immediately, her mind racing. The simplified version of Spirit Step is executed to its fullest extent, causing the body to retreat backward like a willow catkin. With a thud, the black-scaled horse charged forward, overtaking the silver-clad warrior. The Shadow Knight's iron spear, trailing a rainbow of spear light, pierced rapidly towards the retreating Xiao Lingyun. In the narrow passage, the black-scaled horse moved with incredible speed. Xiao Lingyun continued to slide backward, his eyes narrowing slightly. He raised his right hand and wielded his heavy sword, striking the tip of the Shadow Knight's spear, which was hidden amidst a shower of spear lights, with perfect precision. The black-scaled horse's charge was momentarily halted. Using the force of that attack, Xiao Lingyun continued to retreat at high speed. At that moment, a silver-clad warrior shot out like a cannonball from beside a black-scaled horse. The silver-clad warrior, who was in midair, wielded his 5-ringed broadsword like a meteor from outer space, slashing down. Faced with the silver-clad warrior's strike, Xiao Lingyun, who was retreating, suddenly plummeted downwards, his right hand thrusting out the Xiantai heavy sword. A chilling sword light had already reached the lower abdomen of the silver-clad warrior who was falling from the air. If the silver-clad warrior continued his downward strike, Xiao Lingyun's long sword would pierce his abdomen first. A fierce glint flashed in the silver-clad warrior's eyes. With a slight twist of his wrist, his 5-ringed broadsword met the heavy sword. With a clang, the silver-clad warrior was sent flying upwards. Xiao Lingyun retreated, his right hand wielding the Xiantai heavy sword with lightning speed once more. He met the onslaught of the Shadow Knight's spear shadows as they charged forward. Clang, clang, clang. A series of sounds rang out as guns and swords clashed. Kill. A fierce shout rang out, and a blade of light slashed down from the sky as the silver-clad warrior attacked once more. Having broken through the Shadow Knight's offensive and about to counterattack, Xiao Lingyun could only grit his teeth and use the spirit illusion step to dodge once more. This won't do. If we don't break their combined momentum, let alone defeat them one by one, we might even be defeated by them together. Black-scaled horse. Got it? Clang. The level 1 heavy sword struck the silver-clad warrior, sending him staggering backward. Before the Shadow Knight's spear attack could arrive, Xiao Lingyun flipped over and dashed forward. Is this guy running away? The Shadow Knight paused for a moment, then reined in his mount. The black-scaled horse reared up, let out a neigh, and took off in hot pursuit. When Xiao Lingyun unleashed the spiritual step to its fullest extent, his movements were extremely swift, like a galloping horse, covering over 100 meters in the blink of an eye. As he ran, a glint of joy flashed in Xiao Lingyun's eyes as he glanced back. The 2 formidable enemies chasing him had already widened the distance between them. We need to spread it out a bit more. Xiao Lingyun turned back and continued sprinting. He ran 600 meters in one go. Looking back again, haha, great. The Shadow Knight took the lead, chasing closely behind Xiao Lingyun for 10 meters, leaving the silver-clad warriors behind him 40 meters behind. The alliance has been broken. With a smile on his lips, Xiao Lingyun suddenly shifted his body in the midst of his mad dash, took 2 quick steps, and kicked off the sturdy tunnel wall beside him. His slender figure spun in the air and pounced towards the Shadow Knights who were rushing towards him from behind. While suspended in midair, the Xiantai heavy sword trembled, and a wave of sword energy arose. With a clear and distinct tiger's roar, 3 dazzling sword shadows, faintly shaped like tiger heads, roared towards the Shadow Knight. The powerful and ferocious tiger roar triple strike. This sudden counterattack caught the Shadow Knight somewhat off guard. However, he was extremely experienced in combat and not weak in strength. In his haste, he swung his iron spear with his right hand to meet Xiao Lingyun's 3 tiger head sword shadows. Clang, clang, clang. 3 consecutive clanging sounds echoed faintly in the passageway. The Shadow Knight felt as if his spear was being struck repeatedly by 3 giant hammers. The first hammer blow shook his entire arm, the second blow cracked his tiger's mouth. The third blow, with its immense force, made the Shadow Knight feel a sweet taste in his throat, and as he opened his mouth, a mouthful of blood gushed out. He could no longer maintain his balance on the horse. The man and his gun were sent flying to the side. With a thump-thump, the black-scaled horse galloped forward, leaving no one around. With a single tiger roar triple strike, Xiao Lingyun knocked the Shadow Knight off his horse. Taking advantage of the moment when the opponent was still unsteady, Xiao Lingyun launched a fatal attack. With a swift movement, he schemed along the ground, and the heavy iron sword in his hand transformed into a streak of light, piercing the Shadow Knight's left ribs at a tricky angle. The Shadow Knight's eyes widened in fury. In the instant his body faded, his right hand slid, gripping the tip of his spear, and he thrust it out viciously. With a sharp SSS, the sharp spear tip pierced a bloody hole in Xiao Lingyun's left shoulder. If his body hadn't been on the verge of collapse, with his strength less than 20% of its peak, Xiao Lingyun's left shoulder wouldn't just have a 2-inch deep hole, it could have pierced through or even crippled his arm. Pop! The Shadow Knight's form finally disintegrated. Ignoring the injury to his left shoulder, Xiao Lingyun rolled to the side on the spot. A flash of cold light appeared in midair, and a blade of light swept across the space where Xiao Lingyun had been a moment before, just as the silver-clad warrior behind him was rushing towards him. Half a step too slow, his companion was killed. Anger flashed across the silver-clad warrior's face. He landed midair and, with a series of swish, 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 slashed 3 times in quick succession at Xiao Lingyun, who was still unable to stand up. Clang, clang, clang. The Xiantai heavy sword rang out, and with 3 crisp sounds, Xiao Lingyun, who was half lying on the ground, precisely intercepted the silver-robed warrior's slash. With a slam of his left palm on the ground, a body flew up like a spinning top, and the Xiantai heavy sword slashed out rapidly in the air once again. 3 fierce sword lights slashed down fiercely towards the silver-robed warrior. Tiger roar triple strike. Clang, clang, clang. The silver-robed warrior's 5-ringed broadsword flashed up and down, blocking 3 heavy swords. But the fierce force caused the silver-robed warrior's body to tremble, and he staggered back 2 steps. Before he could regain his footing, a figure had already closed in on the silver-robed warrior's chest. The sharp fist made the silver-robed warrior's expression change. Desperate, without regard for anything else, he pointed his left hand like a knife and delivered a palm strike towards the figure in front of him. For the last one, let's give it our all. Xiao Lingyun unleashed a powerful left fist, striking the silver-clad warrior's chest just a fraction of a breath ahead. At the same time, his bronze hammer body surged at an astonishing speed, using his left chest to withstand the opponent's palm strike. Bang, bang, the sounds of fists and palm striking flash rang out in quick succession. 2 figures flew backward and stumbled, then retreated, splitting into 2 directions. With a pft, the silver-clad warrior spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. While in midair, he raised his right hand, and the 5-ringed broadsword flew out of his hand, shooting towards the retreating Xiao Lingyun like lightning. Xiao Lingyun's pupils contracted slightly. He thrust out his heavy sword and swiftly tapped the incoming 5-ringed broadsword. A powerful force collided violently, and Xiao Lingyun's heart skipped a beat. Something was wrong? With his stamina and inner energy almost completely depleted, this sword strike couldn't even fully deflect the long sword. In desperation, he quickly shifted his body to the side. Swoosh! The long knife slashed across Xiao Lingyun's left side, tearing a gruesome gash 3 inches long and half an inch deep in his abdomen. At the same time, with a soft pop, the silver-clad warrior who had fallen to the ground coughed up a mouthful of blood, and then his entire body turned into a stream of light and vanished. In the rest and cultivation room at the end of the 8th floor of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, Xiao Lingyun sat down and carefully applied ointment to his wounds and bandaged them simply. At the end of each floor of the Spirit Cloud Tower, there are training rooms stocked with some simple wound medicines, which are quite effective at stopping bleeding and promoting tissue regeneration. This is to help every student achieve better results. These healing medicines can only be applied topically and cannot be taken away. This is a rule of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. Anyone who takes them without permission will be expelled and automatically lose their qualification to continue cultivating. Some students who didn't believe in this rule tried to steal them, and naturally, the result was tragic. These rules were explained to each student when they entered the tower for their training test. Xiao Lingyun hadn't used these healing medicines on the first few floors, but this time he got a good taste of them. After tending to his wounds, Xiao Lingyun didn't immediately begin cultivating as before. Instead, he activated the Turtle and Crane Immortal Spirit Nourishing Technique. If he were to attempt to break through to the 9th level while injured, passing would be a piece of cake. Therefore, Xiao Lingyun's first thought was to use the rich medicinal liquid in this secret room in conjunction with the Turtle and Crane Immortal Spirit Nourishing Technique to heal his injuries. Only by being in top form can we have even a slight hope of getting past the 9th floor and setting a better record. As his hand and body shifted, stretching out like a crane, his cry signifying longevity, then coiling like a tortoise, his tendons and blood flowing freely, the rich medicinal energy in the secret chamber surged into Xiao Lingyun's body from all directions like rivers flowing into the sea. Through the Tortoise and Crane Immortal Spirit Nourishing Technique, it quickly transformed into wisps of cool internal energy. This cool internal energy flowed to the wounds on his chest and shoulders, and a tingling, itchy sensation arose. Numbness and itching in the wound are signs that the wound is healing and the injury is starting to improve. Half an hour later, Xiao Lingyun carefully felt the cool, tingling sensation constantly emanating from the blood hole in his left shoulder. He reached out and gently unwrapped the bandage, then looked down at the wound on his left shoulder. The blood hole, which was originally as thick as an arm, had shrunk to the size of a small egg. At this rate, it would be completely healed in at most 2 hours. Even Xiao Lingyun was somewhat surprised that the Earth-rank cultivation technique Turtle and Crane Immortal Spirit Nourishing Technique could have such an effect on a martial artist's physical injuries. In high spirits, Xiao Lingyun continued her healing mode. While Xiao Lingyun was using his health-preserving techniques to heal his injuries, Zhao Mingjian was caught in a fierce battle. The finish line is only a kilometer away. Once you defeat these last 4 illusions, you can pass the 7th level. However, Zhao Mingjian's luck wasn't so good. Leaving aside the 2 giant earth bears, the 2 silver-clad illusionary warriors alone weren't so easy to deal with. Moreover, he was 2 years older than Xiao Lingyun. Both of these silver-clad warriors were genuine peak 7th level martial artists. The rolling fist shadows, like surging waves, repelled the silver-clad illusion warrior in front. Zhao Mingjian retreated rapidly, and before another illusion warrior could strike with his long sword, he fiercely crushed the jade talisman at his waist. He teleported out on his own. He had already used his family's legendary 13 Waves Fist, yet he still couldn't defeat a single silver-clad illusion warrior. Having fought his way here, he had depleted less than 20% of his physical strength and internal energy. If he continued, it wouldn't be him killing these illusion beasts and illusion warriors, but rather him being crippled by them. With the situation beyond his control, Zhao Mingjian decisively chose to retreat to ensure the success of the upcoming competition. In the 6th passageway, Pan Xiaobing's round, chubby face was covered in sweat, but his plump body was incredibly agile. Whoosh! An arrow flashed through the air and thud, it slammed into the thick, muscular body of the giant earth bear. Ayo! The giant earth bear raised its head and let out a painful howl, with several sharp arrows scattered around it. The giant earth bear, roaring in fury, opened its scarlet eyes and limped as it chased after the fat man, its massive body riddled with iron arrows embedded in each of its 2 thick legs. Even after all that, he didn't fall. A ruthless glint flashed in the fat man's eyes. Without the slightest hesitation, he knocked another arrow, the bowstring drawn back to its fullest extent. His hands trembled slightly, clearly reaching a relative limit. Thud. With a flick of his fingers, the long arrow, forged from refined iron, transformed into a streak of black lightning in midair. With a thud, it pierced deeply into one of the giant bear's enormous eyes. Ayo! The giant earth bear let out a shrill howl of pain, and in the next instant, its enormous body melted away like snowflakes, turning into streams of light and disappearing into the sky. The fat man, who had seemed quite agile just moments before, relaxed upon seeing the stream of light. He collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. His sweat-drenched face revealed an indescribable excitement and exhilaration. Ha ha ha, 6th level? I've cleared it. Outside the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, the sky had already darkened, and before they knew it, it was 3 a.m. on the 3rd day. In another 6 hours, the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower would have been open for 2 full days. The towering 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower was brightly lit, and numerous spectators gathered in small groups, chatting, observing the ceremony, and cultivating. Look, look. The 8th floor? There's another yellow dot on the 8th floor. Suddenly, a voice drew everyone's attention back to the 8th floor of the tower. The last yellow dot of light entered 6 hours ago. It's still on the 8th floor, but it's remained stationary. This can only mean one thing: this lucky and powerful individual has already cleared the 8th floor and entered the rest and training room at the end of the 8th floor to cultivate. To everyone's surprise, 6 hours later, another mid-level student reached the 8th floor, and 2 students even made it to the 8th floor together. This achievement was not seen in Lingyun Academy for more than 200 years. The eyes of the several powerful figures in the villa also lit up at this moment. Ha ha ha, who said our Lingyun courtyard was inferior? Who said our Lingyun courtyard was the worst among all the courtyards? Now, we have produced 2 geniuses, and one of them has already passed the 8th level and is even going to challenge the 9th level. The bigwigs seemed to have already foreseen the bright future of Lingyun courtyard, and the time for its resurgence had arrived. Zhao Mingjian, Wang Yi, Lu Mingquan, Zhang Yunli, and the others looked at the 2 conspicuous yellow dots on the 8th floor of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower, a bitter feeling rising in their hearts. Actually, 2 guys had passed the 7th floor. No, the dot that went in earlier hadn't moved for 3 or 4 hours. Although they were unwilling to admit it, they knew in their hearts that it was most likely that guy had passed the 8th floor. Only this reason could explain it. Cleared the 8th level? This is an unprecedented achievement for Lingyun Academy. It's probably also the best result achieved by mid-level students from other academies. A super genius? If someone like this isn't a super genius, then who deserves that title? For the bigwigs in the villa and Zhao Mingjian and his group, the identities of the 2 yellow dots on the 8th floor of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower are now clear: Xiao Lingyun and Ye Feng. The thought filled Zhao Mingjian with mixed feelings, including deep humiliation and resentment. When did a good-for-nothing who was bullied by his underlings and lackeys suddenly turn his life around in just half a month, soaring to become a super genius, a once-in-a-millennium talent of Lingyun Academy? All of this changed when Zhao Changgong rescued that guy from the back mountain. What kind of incredible luck did this guy surnamed Xiao have? Could it be that he had a fortuitous encounter in the back mountain? Did he consume a rare and precious spiritual fruit? The more Zhao Mingjian thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Damn it, I forced those two idiots, Zhao Sandy and Cai Ming, to drop out of school. Niu Shan is completely ruined, and the others don't have much contact with the guy surnamed Xiao, so I can't even find him to ask around. Impressive, impressive. Such talent and renowned reputation? To reach the 8th level with only a 5th level martial artist cultivation, you can't help but admire him. Wang Yi looked up at the two striking yellow dots on the 8th level, his heart pounding with excitement, his eyes shining brightly, and his chest filled with pride. The students at Lingyun Academy are truly a hidden gem? Xiao Lingyun and Ye Feng, how magnificent it is to have two such formidable rivals accompanying you on your future spiritual path. Two incredibly freakish guys, they actually both made it to the 8th floor. Lu Mingquan let out a soft breath, inwardly marveling. A surge of competitive spirit immediately welled up within him, and he quietly clenched his fists. Just wait and see in the 3rd stage of the elimination rounds. Lu Mingquan, won't let you have all the glory. Standing at the entrance to the 8th floor, Ye Feng's clothes were tattered, but he was full of energy and his physical strength and internal energy were at their peak. In particular, his spirit was extremely excited. I wonder if that so-called super genius has made it to this level. If not, I will become the first person in the last 50 years to reach the 8th level as a mid-level student. Ye Feng could almost see the cheers of the crowd as he emerged from the tower. He could almost see the envious glances of the many students. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. He tightened his grip on the long sword and strode in. Swoosh. The longsword in his hand pierced the throat of the bloodthirsty silver wolf with unparalleled precision, killing it instantly. His figure flashed, and in the next instant, the long sword darted out like a serpent, thrusting and retracting at the joint of the earth bear's powerful right hind leg. The bear's tall body staggered, and its two huge forepaws slammed into the ground, creating two deep craters. Ye Feng's lean and muscular body leaped high like a nimble cheetah, sword in hand, and plunged it fiercely into the neck of the giant earth bear. Ayo! With a piercing howl, the giant earth bear's massive body vanished into a shower of light with a pop. Ye Feng's sword technique is a killing sword, simple yet effective, aiming to kill enemies as quickly as possible. During his training in the wild, he has risked his life more than once when hunting monsters, fighting for his life just to kill the monsters before him. Kill. The longsword pierced through like a venomous snake, and a bloody hole suddenly appeared in the chest of a phantom beast. With a whoosh, the longsword moved silently. By the time Ye Feng noticed, it was too late to completely dodge. His body quickly bent to the side, and a trail of blood spurted out from his waist and ribs. Damn it! Ye Feng cursed inwardly. He was covered in blood, some from phantom beasts, some from silver-clad warriors, and some from his own. The once gleaming silver sword in his hand was now stained dark red with blood. The difficulty of the 8th floor of the Spirit Cloud Tower is more than twice that of the 7th floor, and he has only gone through 1/3 of it. Ye Feng feels that it is already more difficult than clearing the 7th floor. A cold glint flashed in Ye Feng's eyes. He shifted his body, exerted force with his feet, and delivered a shoulder-ramming attack that sent a bloodthirsty silver wolf flying towards the silver-clad warrior. The silver-clad warrior swiftly reached out with his left hand, about to forcefully push away the bloodthirsty silver wolf that was charging at him, when a dark red longsword emerged from the wolf-shaped phantom beast's side. With a thud, the sword tip pierced from the silver-clad warrior's abdomen all the way up to his chest. With a soft pop, the silver-clad warrior's entire body disintegrated. Ye Feng's face turned deathly pale. The collision and the fatal sword strike had almost exhausted the little internal energy he had left. He glanced at the humanoid phantom that was rapidly appearing in front of him. Ye Feng, who had 5 or 6 wounds of varying sizes on his body, sighed softly and decisively crushed the jade talisman at his waist. Upon being teleported out, Ye Feng's injuries were immediately treated by the medical instructors, and 2 other high-ranking instructors also rushed over. This scene was clearly quite different from what Ye Feng had imagined. Immediately following, a cry of alarm rang out. Look! One of the yellow lights on the 8th floor has disappeared. This is. I've been teleported out, but I failed to clear the 8th floor. I gave up halfway through. The teleportation has been completed. However, to reach the 8th level with the cultivation of a mid-level student is still quite impressive. If it weren't for that guy before him, this person would be the first mid-level student from our Lingyun Academy to reach the 8th level in the last 50 years. Unfortunately, with such a remarkable person preceding him, his achievement seems somewhat less impressive. Ye Feng looked up and saw a striking yellow light on the 8th floor. It was so dazzling and brilliant. Damn it, there are actually people on the 8th floor. Shock, anger, and resentment surged within him, and with a mouthful of blood gushed from Ye Feng's mouth. Under the powerful divine sense, everything around him was presented in the old man's mind without any discernible difference. The gaunt old man, who had been feigning sleep with his eyes closed, couldn't help but sigh inwardly after sensing Ye Feng vomiting blood after landing from the tower. Talent is good, but unfortunately, he's too attached to gains and losses, too greedy for fame and fortune. To achieve anything, it's difficult indeed. Now, it all depends on that young man up there. Kid, don't let me down. Whether the Lingyun Sword Sect can maintain its status as one of the top 5 sects in the Xinyu domain, or even go further, depends on you young people. It's 5 a.m. on the 3rd day. The 8th floor is the cultivation rest area. Xiao Lingyun stood up. His arms trembled slightly, and a wave of energy rippled out like the ocean tide. Haha, not only that, in just 9 hours, not only were his injuries healed, but his cultivation had also advanced further. In the 4th hour, he would have entered the middle stage of the 5th level martial artist. The rich medicinal nourishment from the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower not only greatly accelerated the healing of injuries, but also made cultivation progress by leaps and bounds every day. His cultivation of essence, energy, and spirit has reached a new peak. I've arrived at the highest level of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. 9 levels high? That's ridiculously difficult. The moment Xiao Lingyun stepped onto the 9th level, he not only wiped away a cold sweat but also inwardly complained. Good heavens, we've run into 2 humanoid illusions right off the bat. A silver-clad warrior and a shadow knight. This is clearly the faction you'd face when you finally cleared the 8th floor, but here on the highest 9th floor, they've become the very first obstacle you encountered. However, upon reflection, the illusions appearing on this 9th level are at least equivalent to the strength of a level 6 martial artist, and at most equivalent to the strength of a level 9 martial artist. It's normal for an illusion equivalent to the strength of a level 7 or 8 martial artist to appear here. On the 8th floor, the combination of level 7 and 8 humanoid illusionary warriors was considered the strongest. However, on the 9th floor, this combination had become extremely common and widespread. No wonder, even many level 9 warriors could not pass the 9th floor of the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. Just think about it, to get through the 9th level, you have to completely defeat as many as 90 illusions, about 70% of which are at least level 7 martial artists. The difficulty is so great that just thinking about it sends chills down your spine. Forward, forward. With his cultivation improved and his spirit at its peak, Xiao Lingyun faced the combination of the silver-clad warrior and the shadow knight. While he wouldn't say he was completely at ease this time, he was certainly far less disheveled than he had been on the 8th floor. After some effort and sustaining a minor injury to my left arm, I successfully took down this pair of roadblocks. After defeating 3 waves of illusory human-beast hybrids, Xiao Lingyun had advanced over 1,000 meters in the passageway of the 9th floor. After 3 rounds of battle, Xiao Lingyun felt that he had made progress in all aspects. His strength had increased, his footwork was more agile, his sword, fist, and palm techniques were more skillful and reasonable, and his combat was more swift and effective. Because of his experience at the 8th level, whenever a phantom of a level 6 martial artist, the Earth Giant Bear, appeared, he would use the phantom beast's massive body as cover to first kill a level 7 silver-clad martial artist or a level 8 shadow knight. Only then would he use the spirit illusion stab to maneuver around, recover his internal energy and true essence, and finally kill the massive but agile Earth Giant Bear. Fortunately, of these 3 waves of illusions, only the first wave featured an 8th level shadow knight, while the latter 2 waves only featured silver-clad warriors at the highest level of 7th. Xiao Lingyun was able to successfully restore his depleted true essence to almost full. The battle continued, advancing 200 meters, 500 meters, 1000 meters. The silver-clad warrior in front of him vanished in a flash of light. Xiao Lingyun let out a soft sigh and took a step forward. He had only taken 3 steps when his eyes narrowed slightly. In the passage ahead, a colossal figure, almost as large as the Shadow Knight and his horse, stood menacingly. Iron-armed giant ape? A king among ordinary martial beasts, whose strength surpasses that of most level 9 martial artists? The iron-armed giant ape is over 3 meters tall. Its most terrifying feature is its 2 long, dark arms, almost as long as its body, gleaming with a metallic luster like black iron. These are 2 highly flexible, bendable steel whips. With immense arm strength and long, slender fingers like steel hooks, it can easily tear apart tigers and leopards. Even from nearly 50 meters away, Xiao Lingyun could immediately tell how powerful this iron-armed giant ape was. In the empty passageway, the giant iron-armed ape half squatted and half sat, its 2 long arms casually resting on the ground. It seemed relaxed, yet it gave Xiao Lingyun a powerful and domineering aura, as if a single ape could hold off 10,000 men. Xiao Lingyun let out a long breath. The huge guy in front of him was undoubtedly the most powerful enemy he had encountered since entering the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. Fighting spirit surged, his gaze hardened instantly, and his steps changed. He adjusted his breathing and took each step. With each step, the pure internal energy within his body circulated faster, and his fighting spirit intensified. After taking 9 steps, the speed at which his internal energy circulated reached a peak, and his fighting spirit also surged to a critical point. With a fierce glare, the crimson ape eyes sized up Xiao Lingyun, who was closing in step by step. It then braced itself slightly with its arms and stood up. As the iron-armed giant ape sensed a threat and stood up, a deep roar rang out, "Kill!" Xiao Lingyun slammed his right foot down heavily. With a resounding crack, the dust within several meters of the tunnel floor exploded as if struck by an invisible force. In the next instant, Xiao Lingyun's body traversed over 10 meters, arriving before the iron-armed giant ape. His sword light pierced the air, crashing down towards the giant ape with the force of thunder. A fierce glint flashed in the iron-armed giant ape's scarlet eyes, and an arm shimmering with a dark aura met the Xiantai heavy sword like a flying steel club. Swords clashed. A resounding clang, like metal clashing, echoed through the tunnel. A powerful gust of wind, like ripples on water, spread out from where the iron arms and heavy swords clashed, the fierce and scattered winds striking the tunnel walls with loud thuds. Xiao Lingyun felt a tremendous force on his arm, and the heavy sword almost flew out of his hand. He clenched his fingers and barely managed to grab the black iron heavy sword. He staggered back 3 steps before regaining his balance. The iron-armed giant ape's tall and powerful body merely swayed twice. Hiss, that's some real strength. This guy has a strength of 2,000 jin, and also 1,800 jin. Xiao Lingyun, who had stepped back, gasped in shock. The iron-armed giant ape, having gained the upper hand, gave Xiao Lingyun no chance to breathe. With a long stride, its left arm, like an iron whip, swept across Xiao Lingyun's waist and ribs with a low whistling sound. When, with a muffled thud, Xiao Lingyun, whose right hand was still numb, dared not be careless. He immediately raised his sword with both hands to block the opponent's sweeping attack. However, due to the powerful impact of the opponent, one body was pushed 2 meters to the side before regaining its balance. No, this can't go on. This behemoth is too strong. Even the Xiantai heavy sword, a mere mortal-grade blade, cannot sever its 2 iron arms. Only by using the bronze hammer body can we hope to turn the tide. With a thought, buzz. A halo of cyan light rose from Xiao Lingyun's body. The bronze hammer body, one of the trump cards for martial artists and even spiritual masters, is about to be unleashed. Xiao Lingyun had considered the use of the bronze hammer very carefully. Firstly, this was inside the tower, a private space where he wouldn't be seen. Secondly, this bronze hammer hadn't been used much since he used the blood jade to temper his body 3 times and reach the minor completion stage. To reach the pinnacle or even perfection, one must constantly hone one's skills in actual combat. And now, this iron-armed giant ape is an excellent opponent to hone the bronze hammer body. After the bronze hammer body activated its power, the turtle and crane immortal spirit health cultivation exercise also quietly began to operate. Threads of cool internal energy flowed to the right hand, greatly reducing the soreness and numbness. With a renewed sense of confidence, Xiao Lingyun's fighting spirit surged. He channeled immense power into his hands, gripping the heavy black iron sword tightly, and grinned at the iron-armed giant ape. You beast, come on. Faced with Xiao Lingyun's almost provocative action, 2 fierce glints flashed in the eyes of the iron-armed giant ape, and its tall figure arrived with a whoosh. Its 2 iron arms, which shimmered with a dark metallic aura, transformed into 2 iron rods and smashed out in a series of blows from the left and right. Xiao Lingyun did not back down and charged forward fiercely. Clang, clang, clang. 4 consecutive sounds of metal clashing rang out. Xiao Lingyun was forced back several steps, and the azure aura around his body flickered and nearly collapsed. This time, the iron-armed giant ape also trembled violently, trying its best to stabilize itself, but it still couldn't. Crack, crack, its 2 powerful hind legs each took a step back, and the powerful force directly shattered the 2 bluestone slabs. The pair of long arms, as if forged from refined iron, trembled slightly. There were 4 bruises on the dark, shiny iron arms, 2 of which had traces of blood seeping out. Clearly, Xiao Lingyun, who had activated the bronze hammer body and increased his strength by nearly 30%, had already inflicted damage on him with his heavy sword. Xiao Lingyun, with his exceptional eyesight, burst into laughter upon seeing this. Haha, is this all you've got? Let's go again. He unleashed his bronze hammer body to its fullest potential once more, his heroic spirit soaring. He forcefully suppressed the surging blood and chi in his chest and abdomen, brandished his Xiantai heavy sword, and launched another fierce attack on his opponent. Awua! The iron-armed giant ape's eyes blazed with fury. It clenched its fists and slammed them into its chest. With a roar, its iron arms came together in midair, transforming into a giant hammer that crashed down on the incoming heavy sword. Bang! With a muffled thud that was extremely deep, 2 figures, one tall and one short, retreated to either side. Xiao Lingyun's figure was blown back 10 meters. Although the iron-armed giant ape only retreated 2 steps and 6 meters, the 2 steel hook-like fingers on its right forelimb made a strange bend. The iron-armed giant ape's long arms weren't actually made of steel. With the violent enhancement of the bronze hammer body, the Xiantai heavy sword's destructive power also increased significantly. The giant ape's iron arms began to lose ground in the duel against a blade made of genuine refined iron. Xiao Lingyun's fighting spirit soared even higher. Haha, again. Another figure charged forward. Clang, clang, clang. Retreat, bang, step back. Again. After several rounds, traces of blood seeped from the corners of Xiao Lingyun's mouth, and the azure aura of his bronze hammer body flickered like a candle flame in the wind, showing signs of being extinguished at any moment. Strangely, Xiao Lingyun's fighting spirit grew even stronger, the light in his eyes grew brighter, and the circulation of his pure internal energy reached a point of near boiling. His upright figure was like an ancient pine tree on a mountain peak, having weathered 100 years of wind and frost, still standing tall and proud, or like a newly forged blade, gradually revealing its formidable power to cut through gold and jade after countless hammerings. Damn human monkeys! The more the iron-armed giant ape fought, the more terrified it became. The once glossy, steel-like arms were now covered in lumps and oozing blood. If initially, in each duel, Xiao Lingyun was always knocked back a greater distance, then as the battle continued, the distance the iron-armed giant ape retreated kept increasing. In the last duel, the iron-armed giant ape had already retreated a greater distance than Xiao Lingyun. Fear gripped the giant iron-armed ape, and it finally realized it was no match for the enemy and decided to flee. Run away? Xiao Lingyun was slightly taken aback, then a bright smile appeared on his lips. There's no way to escape right under my nose. With a swift movement, a figure transformed into a streak of light and rapidly caught up. Man and sword became one, shooting like a sharp arrow at the fleeing iron-armed giant ape. Hearing the sound of a sword flashing through the air behind him, the iron-armed giant ape swung its right arm backward, but missed its target, and with a whoosh sound, it struck nothing. The iron-armed giant ape's body wasn't as sturdy as its iron arms. Under the powerful force of the sharp tax sword, it was pierced straight through the heart by the heavy sword. A burst of brilliant light rose up. Upon landing, Xiao Lingyun felt a sense of relief, but his whole body ached, and his hands and feet trembled slightly. He plopped down on the ground and fell backward, lying directly on the tunnel floor. He let out a low laugh that was slightly painful but mostly joyful. Haha, finally took down one of the iron-armed giant apes? Despite collapsing to the ground, Xiao Lingyun did not relax. He immediately activated the turtle and crane longevity health preservation technique to restore his strength and internal energy while treating the injuries throughout his body. This battle was the most arduous one he had ever fought in the Xianyu domain. Although it was tough, the gains were considerable. First, his bronze hammer body had improved under such rigorous training. Although it was still far from being fully mastered, every journey begins with a single step. If he could have more intense battles like this, he believed that the time it would take for his bronze hammer body to reach full mastery would be greatly shortened. Secondly, the aching meridians and sore muscles throughout the body become stronger and more resilient after being nourished and repaired by the turtle and crane longevity health preservation exercise. This means that the physical body is constantly being honed and improved in these fierce battles. Combat power steadily increases. Whether it was a misperception or not, Xiao Lingyun felt as if he had been lying on the tunnel floor for far more than 100 breaths. With his physical strength and internal energy recovered to nearly 40%, and the soreness in his body almost gone, Xiao Lingyun, still reluctant to get up from the ground, noticed ripples appearing on the tunnel wall beside him. 1, 2, 3 A total of 3 phantoms materialized and appeared. Seeing the 3 phantoms materialize, Xiao Lingyun, who had been lying on the ground wanting to rest for a few more breaths, was instantly fully revived and leaped up with a fish-like leap. Then, a bright smile appeared on his face. I can't help but laugh. Haha, my character is impeccable. When luck comes, even city walls can't stop it. 3 phantoms, 2 big, clumsy bears, and a silver-clad warrior. Marvelous! Xiao Lingyun greeted him with a beaming smile. With a whoosh, Xiao Lingyun thrust out his heavily forged Xiantai sword, shattering the giant earth bear that had been lying on the ground howling for some time with its 2 hind legs severed. He then leisurely approached the silver-clad warrior whose limbs were broken, sensing the renewed strength and surging internal energy within his body. A wicked smile appeared on Xiao Lingyun's lips as he plunged the heavy sword into the silver-clad warrior's head. With a soft pop, the silver-clad warrior vanished in a streak of light. 2 hours later, Xiao Lingyun's bare upper body bore several clearly visible, gruesome wounds. Except for one wound where a trace of blood was still seeping out, the other wounds had begun to scab over and were in the process of healing. Wearing tattered trousers and shirtless, Xiao Lingyun let out a long breath. We've finally made it to the final level. With his prior experience and the powerful healing abilities of the turtle and crane immortal spirit nourishing technique, Xiao Lingyun fought his way through hardships to the very end of the 9th level. Ahead in the passageway, a giant ape with iron arms stood upright. As his gaze swept over the area, Xiao Lingyun's pupils contracted slightly. This giant ape with iron arms was different from the 2 that had been empty-handed before. It held a huge, 4-meter-long, golden bronze staff in its shiny black right claw. Good heavens! There's an ape wielding a long brass staff. This is practically a demonic beast. Not only that, but their size is also enormous. Even from 50 meters away, Xiao Lingyun could sense the oppressive pressure emanating from the other party. This big guy in front of him was clearly much stronger than his 2 companions. Indeed, each of these layers that leads up to the final checkpoint is guarded by the strongest monster on that layer, the most powerful boss in the 9 Heavens Spirit Cloud Tower. At this moment, the big boss, with its pair of scarlet ape eyes, fiercely stared at Xiao Lingyun. With a thud, its right claw struck the ground, creating a crater. A powerful surge of beast energy erupted from its body, exuding a powerful and intimidating aura, along with a dense aura of malevolence. Xiao Lingyun narrowed his eyes slightly. This guy in front of him was undoubtedly the strongest enemy he had encountered so far. But once we overcome this hurdle, we will make history, the history of all the branch campuses of the Lingyun Sword Sect. Snap! Just as Xiao Lingyun was secretly calculating, the iron-armed giant ape, the final boss of the 9th level, launched the first attack. Amidst the shattering of the stone slabs on the ground, a tall figure burst forth, instantly covering a distance of 40 meters, appearing in front of Xiao Lingyun with an imposing aura. The next instant, a thick bronze staff rapidly enlarged in Xiao Lingyun's eyes with a whistling sound. Using a long staff as a spear, thrusting straight forward, it was simple and brutal, without any fancy tricks. But enveloped in the fierce beastly energy, its destructive power surpassed that of a real spear. Buzz! The long staff thrust forward at incredible speed, striking the air in front of it with a low, piercing sound that sent chills down one's spine. Faced with the super monster's fierce attack, Xiao Lingyun's heart also tightened slightly. The power and the way it simplified a complex attack were far beyond what he could compare to the 2 iron-armed giant apes he had killed before. Faced with such a formidable foe, the exhausted and injured Xiao Lingyun was naturally not foolish enough to directly engage in a head-on fight. He immediately activated the spirit illusion step. Avoid their sharpest attack and wait for the right opportunity to fight. A chase ensued in the passageway. As Xiao Lingyun retreated hastily, all his attention was focused on the formidable enemy before him. His eyes were fixed on the extremely ferocious iron-armed giant ape. He moved with the speed of the wind and the grace of a willow, dodging the opponent's swift and fierce attacks. The copper staff struck and stabbed, cleaved, and entangled, unleashing 36 blows in succession, but none of them could truly hit Xiao Lingyun. However, the face of the largest iron-armed giant ape remained calm and composed, without the slightest sign of agitation. It's as if they're not chasing a powerful enemy, but rather running and leaping through the jungle, casually twirling their copper staffs for fun. Its long legs darted forward at lightning speed, its right claw gripping the bronze staff with unhurried rhythm, slashing, sweeping, and stabbing. While constantly dodging, Xiao Lingyun suddenly felt a jolt in his heart. Oh no, there was a tunnel wall behind him? He had unknowingly been forced into a dead end by this guy. As Xiao Lingyun was reeling from the shock, the giant iron-armed ape rapidly approached. Seeing Xiao Lingyun with no way to retreat, a ferocious look appeared on the ape's usually expressionless face. A deep ape roar echoed as the powerful beast energy surged at an unprecedented speed. Both long arms gripped the bronze staff, which vibrated rapidly. In a mere instant, it unleashed 36 staff shadows, forming a semicircle that completely enveloped Xiao Lingyun.